Hello and welcome aboard, ladies and gentlemen, to a AMA podcast with a couple of friends here. And we're going to be talking about Mechwarrior 5 today. We've got Fairman, who's
Is that a battle tech?
Yeah, it's a battle tech. Hans.
Hello.
Smashian.
Hi there.
And Bubbles,
Well, howdy.
who didn't change his name on there, so he's Ubriel. So he's, as Arch would say, he's the tryhard.
I'm iconic, so I don't need to change my name.
He's like,
Well, he did say
not a
you're
fact.
famous.
Yes. Okay, so now only one of us is actually able to make it to the AMA, and that was Smashian. So Smashian's going to take the lead for just, reading off. Oh, you get the fun part. You actually get to read it. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, fun part.
Fun in quotes.
It's not going to be as structured as the last AMA breakdown we did, because that one we actually prepared a bit for together, whereas for this one we sort of just threw everything together haphazardly at the end.
It was Smashian threw this together, so round of applause for Smashian. I wasn't there, so I couldn't help.
Please refrain from applauding.
Specifically Fairman. Oh, you little shit.
So he continues.
So he's Fairman. If you tell him not to do something, he's going to do it. He's double down on it.
I like cheese.
Jump off a bridge.
Anyway, one of the benefits, however, is that in this AMA, it was focused specifically on AI, scripting, and how it's supposed to interact with the player and so forth. So the questions are going to be focused around that topic, which is good for us. So I think I'll just get right into the swing of things. And the first question that was posed was in regards to AI difficulty. How will it scale across the campaign, and what kind of threats will it pose to the player? And the way the devs answered that was that it would basically be largely tied to campaign progression. They are sort of working on a difficulty slider from the sounds of things, like another case of one hand not talking to the other, where there is just a bit of conflicting information going back and forth between the various departments. From the sounds of things, however, the direction it's going to take is that campaign progression is going to be your major difficulty modifier. You start off facing crappy crews, crappy mechs, under-armored mechs, and then as you gain more reputation and prestige, you'll be thrown into ever-increasing difficulty conflicts and engagements.
Okay. So, I mean, that's good, because before, we actually learned in the last AMA that they were like, oh no, it'll just be sort of progressive-based difficulty, sort of like Dying Light, where there's no actual difficulty setting. It's just, the game gets progressively harder as you progress through it. You don't really have any say on how hard or how easy the game will be. Got one set
Well, that is
setting.
still going to be the case, largely.
But there are going to be
They're
some
designing the game around that.
sliders for modifiers, I assume.
Like that's the thing I was saying about it being somewhat unclear, where parts of the dev team seem to have worked on such a thing just for the sake of testing in-house, but they haven't said anything official about them wanting to put in the difficulty sliders. It seems that they want to structure it sort of like Harebrained Schemes Battletech, in that the campaign just gets progressively harder as you acquire more toys.
The higher the tonnage, the higher the difficulty.
Sort of.
I mean, that's what BattleTech Vanilla turned into.
Yeah.
So I imagine you'll have... So, I mean, I guess that's an interesting thing. I still hope lights will be viable. They'll be a lot more viable in this than they will be in HBS, though. Because player control, more control. A good player should be able to outmaneuver some aspects. It's not focusing on RNG so much.
Yeah, not so much. I mean, RNG is going to be largely dictated by what kind of units you're going to be facing in the random missions.
Yeah, which that is going to be interesting to see. But in terms of that question, I think we can probably move on. That one's not too...
Yeah. The next question that was asked was in regards to unit pathfinding. How is it supposed to be intended to work? The person asking also offered the clarification of pathfinding in regards to object detection and avoidance rather than along the lines of specific behavior scripts. So elevation changes. How will it weigh the decision of smashing through a building? Will the AI ever choose to deliberately ram you? The dev said in regards to this that well, we already sort of covered in the previous AMA breakdown that depending on the size of the mech, it will weigh smashing through a building a lot differently. So assaults are more willing to walk through buildings than lights are. And furthermore, in regards to the pathfinding question in general, how is it going to detect objects? The devs just said generally that at all times, the AI is going to be trying to keep track of all other units in the world. So where is the best position for it to be in order to do damage, in order to avoid damage? And this is going to be expanded upon in later questions that were asked.
That's kind of interesting, because I actually want to know how the AI understands what position offers a better firing position.
Well, here we have
by telling the AI what gives a good firing position. But
well, one of the examples they offered was an Atlas. It is typically supposed to be spec'd as a brawling mech, but depending on its role within its lance, it is either going to be the lead unit or one of the follower units. If it is a follower unit, it'll try to stay close to its leader, but at the same time, it does want to get in close, and it will try to follow that sort of basic AI script for brawling. But it won't go out of its way to chase a player across a map in order to close the distance.
So it will just have a fall point where it'll just not continue. I'm wondering if it's kind of similar. Now, this is a very rudimentary form, but World of Warcraft had a very bare bones system. It had a radius bubbles in which the thing would attack, and then which it would not attack, as it would revert back to its original position or patrol pattern.
Well, that's actually interesting, because later on they do mention that the AI will communicate with itself, such that if one of them gets hit, it will transmit that information to its other lance mates, to the rest of the AI group, and will try to go in the direction from which it was attacked, or if it gets a positive sight line on a player, they will then communicate that to the rest of the team, and from there things start getting more complex, of course, but excuse me, there is that level of communication.
I don't know. I mean, that's one of those answers where it's just like, okay, like proof. I don't know.
Yeah, kind of pie in the sky.
It's like I get a lot of PTSD. We'll use that word. Because Rome 2, their dev, when they did dev questions too, they said all these things too. And when it comes to AI is always one of those things where it's a topic where companies will say like, oh, it can do this, it can do that. And it's super smart and it can, understand this complex system. And then you get the product and then the AI just sits there, and doesn't do anything. Or follows a basic script.
I mean, from the sounds of it, it does seem like they will be following pretty basic scripts. And I think the devs might have said this verbatim. I forget, because it's been a while. But they're trying to avoid the AI. They're trying to avoid getting the AI to do stupid things.
That's what every company wants.
Yeah, I know, it's vague as hell. But for example, one of the ways in which they want to avoid this is the attempt to avoid any sort of player ramming. Given that, as we discussed earlier, ramming isn't going to have a major effect on gameplay because they don't want to have collision damage or knockdowns, the AI will try to keep its distance from you.
Yep. They actually said this in an earlier AMA. And the last one, they were talking about how catapults will actually run away and avoid fighting in confrontation at a certain level. So if you chase it for too long and you close the distance, it will stop using that script and switch to a combat script of fighting, which will be You know, because it realizes, or it's pretending like the AI realizes that it, like, oh, I can't get away, I have to fight.
Yeah.
In actuality, it just has a certain bubble around itself that if you close and enter that bubble, it switches to, I'm going to fight you directly instead of running away. Which means that, you know, having faster mechs, you can actually catch up to it. But like certain mechs, certain heaviers or an assaults will have a harder time catching up to a catapult. And in some cases won't be able to catch up to it. So it won't have to.
Well, yeah, that's actually an interesting thing to consider. Like, what happens when you get a catapult that is just kiting an assault mech around who can't close the distance and get within weapons range?
Well, that's kind of the assault mech's fault for not having any weapons that can hit it. Come on, an assault mech has to have some long-range weaponry. You can't...
Well, he's just proposing a hypothetical.
I know, but it's like, it's one of those things, like, I don't think you'll be in a situation where that can happen, but if that is an interesting point, I guess you'll end up having the situation where the one guy's left chasing it by himself, and he's trying to, like, corner it, so you can probably manipulate the AI into running a certain direction from you, because it'll probably run directly away from you. That's how I'm going to assume it'll behave. So all you need to do is just get behind it and push it to a wall, and then from there, push it to a corner. That's awful, though, because that won't be very fun. That, depending on how big the maps are, might be an absolute pain in the ass. But you could push it into, like, a building or something, I guess.
The maps aren't going to be too excessive.
Well, when you're in assault, it'll be pretty long distance.
I'm pretty sure the game is not even supposed to be a mech duel simulator anyway, so...
Yeah, you're also supposed to have tanks, infantry. They did confirm infantry. Or no, they didn't confirm infantry.
No, they didn't confirm infantry.
Oh, they did actually canonize it. Because they said that they really want to put them in, but they don't know to what degree.
Well, yeah.
Because they have them in the destruction trailer. You see the little guys run around and they explode. They go flying in the air. So there is little models. But yeah, no.
It'll all depend on the mech or the particular hardware specs that they're trying to create the game for.
Yep. And I imagine because Mechwarrior 5, it's back to the original roots, or more so, it'll be less like Mechwarrior Online, where it's just mech to mech to mech to mech. Because now we have helicopters, we do know that. We have different types of helicopters, which we have heavier ones and lighter ones.
Air Force.
I do not know about aerospace. I didn't see any enemy aerospace fighters or strafing fighters or bombers or anything
I think they pretty heavily disconfirmed aerospace as a possibility. It is just going to be close engagement, helicopters, and vehicles.
It was always fun shooting down an aerospace fighter and watching it crash into shit. Oh well.
I mean, maybe in campaign missions it might be a thing. Like, they still have said nothing about Easter eggs, so you might be able, in a campaign mission, to supposedly shoot down an aerospace fighter if it flies overhead.
I imagine,
but that's a lot of ifs.
I imagine we'll actually get to fight the Dread dropships, because the dropships look like they're modeled in, they can come in, and I'm hoping we can fight them, because if you destroy one, or you knock out the thrusters, I mean, that's a lot of metal.
Yeah.
Oh, could you imagine the money?
That's a lot of fish.
A lot of months. Also, tank AI. That's something that's actually kind of interesting. So, did they ever mention anything about that in the AMA?
Yes, they did.
Oh,
and this question was asked, I think, in both of the AMA sessions. We will get to it later on in the video.
Okay, so it is in there.
Bring it up again. But for what I will say for now is that they are going to be running off of a fairly basic set of scripts.
I'd imagine.
They don't want them to run on anything too complex so that it's not a detriment to the player. But they're not also at the same time just going to blindly swarm in. Although I think what you saw in the demo is largely what you're going to get.
Yep,
the helicopters are just going to circle strafe around you, and the vehicles will derp around the field underneath your feet, trying to knock out your legs.
Yep, I did like that footage actually, because the tanks in the footage, they avoided the mech. They did their best to try to get out of the line of sight. They tried driving in circles around the mechs. They were actually using tactics, or what appeared to be tactics, to bring down mechs. Which
so we are
was
not
cool.
just basically looking at a chewing.
No, the tanks don't just stand in front of you and die. They actually maneuver and try to get out of into your blind spots, and they go after your legs.
That makes the tank smarter than 20.
No, that's good. That's good.
Players.
We want the tanks to be fun to fight.
What I'm talking about.
I wonder what the helicopters are going to do, though, in that terms. Oh, well, let's keep
Well,
moving on then.
these guys should never stand. No, well, they stand.
what?
If they make them realistic, the helicopters will probably fly, shoot, and then move again.
They do that
Or
in
depending
the
on what
older
kind
mech
of
warriors.
weapons
They
they have.
strafe. They
Yeah,
strafe with
depending on what
missiles.
kind of weapons it really they have, or maybe even just never stop moving.
Hmm.
Well, you wouldn't want to hold still in front of a mech.
Huh. Well, behind him, yes.
Get behind, shoot him in the back armor.
Although,
Yeah.
don't mechs have some trouble aiming at air?
Yes. Looking up
Yeah,
is actually a pain.
so I guess
For some.
it really depends what kind of mech they are looking at.
I mean, if anyone's played the older mech warriors, you'll know that when some of those helicopters on high elevations and you can't quite get a shot at them, they're going to get a few missiles off while you reposition. So helicopters can be really annoying because they can get out of your firing arc.
Basically, that is
Well, that'll
supposed
be
to be the
fun.
point of the AI script for them. To be annoying, but not annoying to the point of frustration.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
helicopter
I
pilot
guess,
doesn't want to die.
You need some annoying enemies, as long as it's not cancerous annoying.
Yeah.
I mean, that's basically what airplanes are if you're a ground troop. They are a fucking threat, and in worst best case, they are
To bring up
annoying.
aerospace, because now I want them to actually add that at some point, because I like that.
Okay, you just got an aerial bombardment coming on.
Yeah, but that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's kind of cool, but
Because, okay, for a little bit of context, in the older MechWarrior 4 Mercs, how the aerospace worked is it was simple. They see you, they go after you by just flying in a strafing pattern. So they'll strafe you, and then they'll fly off, and then they'll turn around in the distance and strafe you again.
They basically put an A-10 Thunderbolt and get...
Yeah, basically. So they have their own sort of tactics, and they were unique in that aspect. There weren't very many aerospace variants. I think there was only actually one or two. But it was something to make it a little more interesting. Just like the battleship enemy that you fight in the snowy mission. It was like a boss, and it was actually really fun because it had lots of guns, and then the second mission, I think, had 2 battleships. You need to bring them down. That was fun. Or like super dreadnoughts or something.
now.
Well, no, it's like, these are kinds of things I hope that will be in this game eventually. So we'll have like cool other things than mechs, because what makes mechs cool, in my opinion, is having something to contrast it to. Having infantrymen to give you a sort of scale. Tanks to give you a different sort of scale as well. Makes you feel big.
Yeah. Give you big feels.
Give you the big feels. Oh,
You want the big fifis.
big fifis. All right, let's move to the next question so we don't get bogged down.
Another question that was going to be is going to be expanded on further as well. I get to the other questions in the transcript is specifically in regards to Lancemates and how aggressive or passive they're going to be. How are you going to be able to control them? First off, the dev said that the orders that you can give to your AI Lancemates are going to be fairly bare bones. It isn't going to be like Rainbow Six style tactical shooter. It'll be more of a go to location, attack target, and that sort of thing.
So more action than
I mean, it's kind of what the last MechWarrior Mercenaries had too. So it was like regroup, go here, go to target Gamma, engage this hostile in particular. It was pretty simple.
Yeah. That said, the AI is still going to be bound by its own mech-specific script in regards to the actions it can take. So if you send a catapult to attack a target, it's not just going to go stomping on over into face-hugging range with its LRMs. Nor is it going to try to stay at range with an Atlas mech, for example. But beyond that even, the AI... I wonder if I should address this now or later.
Yeah, might as well now if it fits.
Yeah. The target prioritization system for all AI units, whether they be ally or enemy, function off of an aggro system.
So basically, the higher your threat is, the more you get shot.
And this is what it is being modified by. Specifically, the amount of damage that you are putting out within a specific span of time to a target.
So DPS. The higher your DPS, you will draw more aggro.
So basically the equivalent, okay, the guy with a heavy machine gun that's firing at our squad's going to get taken out first.
I mean, if you're doing more
He's
damage
making
output,
himself
then
a very juicy target.
So, like, yeah, if it's a Locust shooting with just a machine gun at this, like, tank or mech or whatever, and the Atlas isn't, it will actually prioritize the Locust because the Locust is the thing doing damage to it.
Yeah. Well,
That
yeah,
way
if the
it
Atlas is still trying to
addresses-
close to range, it's not going to be doing much. Or if it's only firing one medium laser, whereas you have the Locust in your back with like 4 small lasers plinking away at your rear armor or leg armor, then the thing that's doing the most damage to the unit at the time is seen as the higher priority unit.
Which
Naturally,
makes
this is
sense.
going to be modified by whether or not you're spotted and all of these sorts of things.
Well, they seem to put a lot of thought into this.
Yeah, well, they're game devs, so you'd expect them to.
Well, their game's about mech combat, so if it doesn't feel like mech combat, you kind of fucked up.
But then again, how long is that game in development by now?
Actually, what is the... Okay, so they announced it in, like, 2012. But they never got the funding. They couldn't find a publisher that wasn't willing to cut... They claim that the reason why they couldn't pick the publisher was because that they wanted it streamlined or they wanted to cut corners on things and they didn't want to do that. Now, that's commendable in its own right. But in terms of how long they've been developing this, I'd imagine they're using the funds from Mechwarrior Online to fund their own project. So probably for quite a while, but it was probably like being slowly put together in motion. I don't imagine it was like a big like rush at the start of it.
Well, yeah. I mean, I wagered that until Unreal 4 came. We're on Unreal 4, yeah? Or is it Unreal 5 already?
I think we're still on 4.
Oh yeah, I think it's when Unreal 4 really started hitting the mainstream that they decided, okay, we can finally make a prototype build on this platform, and it's going to work better than the CryEngine we were using previously.
Yep, because they did
also
say that they were dropping it during that point because they're like, yeah, no, we're not going to use the CryEngine anymore.
Yeah,
But also-
I heard from a lot of people that just dropped the CryEngine outright.
Well,
Apparently not that nice of an engine.
I mean, we looked into using it for our own game, and it just doesn't handle 2D, so I don't know why they didn't.
I mean, honestly, I wouldn't use the engine like the fucking CryEngine for a basically 2D game. It would be just...
Yeah, I know, so I have no knowledge as to why they dropped the CryEngine. I was just saying that, you know, I have nothing. Unreal, though, is pretty good. From every developer I've ever talked to, they seem to really like the Unreal Engine. It seems to be pretty solid and pretty fun, or not fun, but pretty intuitive and easy to use.
Which might as well mention it now while we're on the subject. If you ever want to mod AI scripts, it's going to be dirt easy because they're on the Unreal Engine.
Yes, and that's one thing that's actually kind of important to note. They're actually pretty open to modding. They see the potential, unlike some companies, HBS, you little shit.
I think rather it's a case that they know they can't do much to stop it, and they'll only generate ire for the IP.
It's like, why would you do that? Modding builds a game's longevity. It's proven time and time again throughout the gaming market. Look at things like Medieval 2.
I mean, just look at Bethesda.
Yeah, look at Bethesda. Bethesda, the only reason people buy their stupid games is
guys, let's
mods.
take money for mods, because that's not going to backfire anyway.
Does anyone buy their games for vanilla experience? I know I don't. I mod the fuck out of those games. Same for Paradox, too. You don't buy the vanilla package, you're there for the mods. I hope in this case, though, it's pretty good. I'm gonna fucking smack you if you add you little shit. I mean, technically, I can add him right now.
But yeah, so final bit of a discussion about the Lancemates, and why giving them orders might be a bit problematic, and I don't know how the players will receive this. Is that depending on the kind of aggro that they're currently under, they may choose to prioritize different targets to the ones you're giving them orders to prioritize. So if you're trying to tell them to attack a target that isn't currently dealing the most damage to them, they'll say "fuck you" and continue trying to engage or disengage from the specific target that is doing the most damage to them.
Yeah, that's actually a concern because, like, the idea of, like, okay, so this game is supposed to be co-op, but it's also supposed to be single player. So you need to be able to have some control over the AI in the sense that your lance mates, your AI partners, will do what you tell them to, and you don't pull out hair. So that's going to be one of those things where that needs to be really balanced out. Because look at things like Star Wars Republic Commandos. Like, it was all about making sure the AI obeyed your commands. And they actually ignore threats to follow your orders to the letter. They'll kill themselves to do it.
That's a good thing, and that's more like a good
well,
thing.
the reason why it's a good thing.
They're going to do the job, and if they die, well, that's more your fault than their fault, I guess.
Yeah, but the thing is, you want them to fulfill their objectives.
Agency under the player's control.
Yes, I do think that they should have it so the commands supersede the script. So it'll prioritize your orders. So if I order the catapult to disengage and engage this target because it's more of a threat, because the player can understand the greater picture, or in theory should be able to understand the greater picture. The AI,
like this, you actually put down a panic system. So if they,
but the way the AI works, Fairman, is it prioritizes the aggro system, which is a very narrow-minded set. It's not thinking about the greater picture of the battle. The player might be able to understand that, like, okay, hey, because you're the commander. Your job is to see the bigger picture of the battle. You see that LRM truck back there is actually dealing more damage to the whole of your lance
than that little tank there. By let's say 2 light mechs, and then your commander says shoot at that guy 1 kilometer away, you may not see that because you're currently getting pummeled by two lights.
I mean, there's a possibility, but you have things that will help you, such as your little scanning minimap thing. So you do have a level of tacticality to it.
Yeah.
You have overhead.
Actually, you did mention something quite interesting in regards to, like, the tiny LRM truck doing more global damage to your lance. I think, and I might be wrong on this, but I do think that the devs said that the AI will try to keep track of not only a specific aggro counter onto their own mech, but like on it, they'll also try to focus on a global lance counter.
Okay, so if they see that
there
the Atlas
is a catapult at the back of the map that is just, shelling away at everyone else, whereas the targets that are providing cover, let's say in the city, like the body blockers for that rear line catapult, the enemy, say in this case, who you're trying to body block, will take note of the fact that, it's actually the catapult that's doing the most damage to the entire lance. We need to go deal with him and try to circumnavigate these guys in the city.
I mean, that's good. That is good. Because then it does understand, like, hey, that one thing is doing more damage than that locust is to me. Just because, okay, that is good. That is good. Because that was actually a concern I had, because I was like, okay, so if the player understands, like, hey, this one thing is actually going to bring down a couple of our mechs if we don't deal with it now.
Yeah, I think really where the massive push and shove is going to come into play is in regards to, like, specific micro-level combat. Like, if you're engaging a locust and your lance mate is engaging, say, a thunderbolt, he might choose to prioritize the thunderbolt that he's engaging over the locust that you're trying to target.
That's the question. How much self-preservation do you want the AI to have?
Well, yeah.
Like, I want a little bit.
Because if you give too much control to the player...
If they just become plain out suicidal, that's something you could probably make if you have to...
Well, like Smashian said earlier, and even the devs, the game script, AI scripts will be completely open. There's not going to be any real locked files from the sounds of it. As in, you can just go in and mod things. You can mod models into the game. So, I mean, you could mod in Imperator, class Titans or whatever from Warhammer if you really want to. You can do those things. Because the game is pretty open. They didn't, what's the word that Tyler tells me when we program a game? It's like, hard coding? Or not hard coding, but it's like locking, like, certain files so you can't access it. It's pretty open. So everything is pretty easy to tamper with.
I mean, on the topic of mods, think about what is rogue tech. Would you play the game as much without that mod?
No. After I beat the vanilla game, I'd probably never play it again, though Smashian seemed to wanted to try that. You little shit.
Oh god. I tried to do it on hard mode. Bad time. I'm gonna be going back to Rogue Tech at some point soon.
Yeah, Rogue Tech's just so much fun.
It really is, and now they've added even more stuff, so it'll be like playing a whole new game all over again for like the 4th time in a row.
Which is good, honestly. I mean, that adds replay value. See, look at that. That one mod adds how much hours worth of content to that game?
It does, however, hamstring the developers in terms of like market longevity, in terms of, well, just the current way DLCs function. But anyway, that is a bit of a side issue at this point.
Oh no, I think that's actually kind of an interesting topic. Maybe we should definitely have a podcast on that all on its own.
Well, no doubt it'll come up sooner or later. But for now, let's get back on track and maybe move on to another question.
So, next question, Smash, you take it away.
Okay. Another thing that was okay. I'm actually just going to gloss over this one. Someone asked if there's going to be a ping system as you have in Apex Legends. The devs said no. It's just going to be like no contextual button commands. It'll be a radial menu style system for AI lance orders.
So if you spot an enemy, you can like mark him like you could in, let's say, Vermintide.
By pressing Q or something like that?
It's going to be 2 button presses instead of 1.
Why don't they just have a single press like Q? Q to mark target.
It'll probably be a radial menu like you have in Mechwarrior Online.
Yes, but
imagine they might have a.
Actually, I have a little bit of grievance with that because I would like to be able to program my keys to do it itself. So, a good example is what Ferment said.
I mean, of course, it's probably going to have key bindings. I mean,
well, we don't know.
I was going to say, I would imagine they would have
multiple functions.
Because, like, I don't know, pulling up a radio menu just to ping stuff. Yeah, once you become proficient with the game, that'll be easy peasy lemon squeezy. But the thing is, like, I don't know, I don't really like radial menus. I normally have all the keys programmed because
it's still a button press more than you need.
Yeah, I have to agree with Bubs on that because I like to be able to press the button. So like F1, F2, F3, F4. You know, you have those programmed for the commands options, so you can easily click, 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 and bam, you're good to go. Or on my mouse, you know, the various buttons there, click right there, you know, poof.
Look, this is a PC game. Like, you'll be able to do this. Anyway, let's move on to like an actual
will we though? Like, that's one thing we should.
Just because it's a PC game, I know a lot of PC games that don't allow that. So
I think we should be.
Mechwarrior Online has a fairly extensive keyboard binding system.
Mechwarrior only for PC?
Mechwarrior
yes.
5, yeah, it's only PC.
Because the games that don't do that are usually console ports, so...
It's just weird. I don't know. To me, it was weird because it's like a radio menu. Like, why?
Anyway, let's move on to a proper question. Someone asked if there was going to be a morale system for the AI, and might enemy units surrender or attempt to flee depending on battle conditions, or will they always simply fight to the death? And the dev said, yes, there is something like this that they are currently working on. They're currently trying to iron out the kinks. The flee mechanic is largely going to be contingent on, is it a light unit that is left on the field? Did you just wipe out all of its heavy lance mates? It'll try to run away. It might try to come back and do damage to you later once it regroups with another unit.
So again,
these are like the sort of kinks that they're trying to work at. But specifically what they're trying to currently solve, or as of the podcast, or AMA, which was a week and a half ago now, the major problem is cases where, say, you take all of the weapons off of a Centurion, say, and he's just hobbling around the battlefield waiting for you to put him out of his misery. They are considering actually bringing in an eject mechanic in order to cover for this. Now the question is, will the player also have access to that same ejection mechanic?
No. They said no to that.
They didn't say they weren't going to add that, but given that they're floating around the idea of doing so for the AI in these weird edge case scenarios,
why would the player
they
have it?
might want to give it to the player. I don't know, for flavor.
It was pointless in the other Mechwarriors because you press the button and you basically forfeit the match. You lose. Why would you do that? By fighting, you have a chance of keeping everything. If you lose and you just straight up
probably
attack,
a fluff thing.
See, here's how you want to do it. You want to have an evac.
Might actually counterbalance it. Who knows?
Well, you should be able to leave. There should be a retreat button, but it should be call your leopard dropship for evac. You know, we don't have enough manpower or whatever. We're getting fucking cream pied out here. We want to leave. The leopard dropship comes in. You got to extract.
Terminology.
Of course, Kibs is going to yes.
Don't worry about it. Like, look, nobody likes these things when it happens to them. Okay. I'm not the only one. The only one.
Oh, you actually do like getting cream pied. Okay, good to know.
Okay.
Too
much information.
You're going too far. You're taking what was a joke and pushing it. All right, now, more importantly, I don't know. I like the idea of being able to call extract or exfiltrate or whatever. I can't word today. And, you know, just pull out with your leopard dropship. Oh, God. Now I just can't get my hand out of the gutter. All right, so, yeah, we'll just move on to the next topic then.
Yeah.
Calm down, Fairman.
AI moddable. Yeah. Oh, this is an important one. Does the AI have perfect information, or is it limited by fog of war? This was addressed previously, but now they've fleshed out the question. So if you fire at a mech that you have line of sight on, it will aggro in the direction of the fire or in the direction from which it was fired at. But furthermore, there are detection ranges, and these are tied to like specific mech sensors. So in bad weather, for example, an enemy mech can only see 300 meters, but on a clear day it'll see 600, something like that. So they will have visual detection ranges or sensor detection ranges, but if somehow you're able to be outside of that range, then, you know, it will aggro onto you if you fire at it.
Yep. What was that one game where if you see an enemy outside of the player's distance and it's inert, and you shoot at it and it just doesn't even notice because it doesn't go active until you enter a certain proximity. So you just see blood squirt out of a guy's leg, and he's like, just stand there like, nothing happened. Totally fine. But in this game, it will not work that way, because once you hit them, they will switch from inert to active.
Yeah. In regards, and yeah, the next question is, will the AI try to work together? And I mean, yes, another broad, bloody question, but we are talking about AI. It will be situational, is what they said. But they gave the example of if you were to engage an enemy, he will ping for help and try to say, I got fired at from this direction, please check it out. Or I'm getting flanked from this direction, someone do something about it. It will try to avoid bottlenecks.
AI communicates as with you as well.
Yeah, and it'll also depend on the kind of patrol route they're on. So if they find nothing after you say hit them and they somehow aren't able to find you, they'll try to go back to their patrol route, that sort of stuff. But they will be calling on help from time to time. Okay. Honestly, though, this is going to be really marginal edge case scenarios, like before the brawl actually sets in.
Yeah, because most of that stuff only happens, skirmishy, when you're far out, long distance engagements.
I should probably mention it now, but stealth isn't really going to be the biggest thing in this game.
Well,
are you going to be able to stealthily engage? Yes, maybe up to a point.
Well, yeah. It's
maybe it was a light.
Well, it's the exact same case for the older Mechwarriors. Like, if you can stay out of sensor range, you can actually, get the element of surprise, as in you can get maybe an alpha strike, maybe some extra rounds off before they can react. They're not gonna just, like once you attack them, unless you've got some sort of ECM warfare stuff where you can jam their communication system, and assuming nobody sees giant lasers go flying off into the sky, no one's gonna notice. Everyone's going to be on combat alert because
that wasn't asked.
Well, it's like
will the AI be able to detect visually detect lasers being fired and then be able to extrapolate directions from which they were fired?
When the AI is in inert mode, right? You fire a laser directly in front of the cockpit of it. Will it not do anything? It just doesn't.
Yeah.
Whatever. Because it only goes active when you strike it. That's what they said. I do remember that. So
yeah, so would you be able to exploit it in this sort of way?
I mean, you could exploit it by making a meme of yourself and firing ER lasers right in front of its face, and look how funny that is. The guys in there just don't really care. Like, whatever.
Laser show.
AC-20 is flying past its head. Yeah, nothing's wrong here, guys.
Oh, pretty fireworks.
This is totally the norm.
Range, probably.
I hope not. I hope when if a laser flies in front of it, there should be a line of sight mechanic or something, or maybe proximity. If a laser strikes around the area, like that's gonna set someone on combat alert when the random shot's fired. Like you sitting in your house, a bullet flies through your window, you're gonna do something about it.
Not necessarily. I mean, who knows? You could live in Compton, and this might be a daily occurrence. Yeah, no, but this is fun.
I mean, I'd still call the cops if I lived in Compton. Just saying.
Fair enough.
No, this is fine. It's on fire. Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, that's the meme I was making reference to.
Yeah.
Everything's on fire, dog sitting there at the table. This is fine.
Everything's fine. Oh no. ER lasers, AC-20 rounds, LBXs, normal.
Nothing to see here, Bouse.
Everything's perfectly normal.
Yeah, okay. Next sort of questions that were asked were in regards to the AI behaving differently or more proficiently, depending on who you're fighting faction-wise. Specifically, an example of will random pirates be as good at fighting as the first Sword of Light? Obviously, no.
They shouldn't be. Oh, God,
pirates will not keep as proficient as named legions.
Yeah, named legion. That would be an example of lazy coding, where the legion skins versus the pirate skins are literally just paint. The AI is just like, yeah, no, I'm the same. That is actually a good question, though. Will Draconis Combine mechs fight with a different tactic versus, Federated Suns or Free Worlds League?
Will they fight with different tactics? I'm going to say
or will
no.
they have different unit comps? So FWL, the Free Worlds League, they should have more tanks and helicopters if you fight them.
They will likely have different compositions depending on which faction they're from, and although that is entirely left up to the devs to actually code that in properly.
I certainly hope so, because that would be cool flavor-wise. Because imagine that, you fight Steiners, you fight heavier mechs. You fight the FWL, you fight loads of tanks and, occasional mech support.
It could be fun. But where this gets really interesting is in regards to what they've said about the skill system. So pirates are typically going to have low-skill pilots, whereas established militaries or mercenary units are going to have, typically more experienced pilots under their command. So, depending on the pilot skills that these mechs are going to be up against are going to have, they will either be more evasive, they will be more accurate, they will be more likely to aim at damaged components if they have a certain lethality skill that's high enough. And basically they'll be more situation savvy as their skill level increases.
Okay.
By the way, the skill level ups are going to follow an Oblivion and Skyrim style leveling up system. This has been mentioned before, but yeah, the more often you put a lance mate of yours in a mech that has a lot of lasers, the better he is going to be at using laser weapons in combat.
Well, that's also not.
I like the idea of leveling up and perking out certain aspects of a character. I like that.
Yeah, it makes him feel like a character.
Yes, and I like the idea of okay, yeah, the mech is cool and all, but there's a person inside of that thing that makes it more unique.
They aren't going to be too unique, however, apart from voice lines.
I did remember in
they're
the
not going to
previous
have personality traits.
Yeah.
Maybe some campaign related guys.
But hey, that's something that could probably be modded in, honestly.
Or even they might even release it as DLC. Who knows?
Character packs. I mean, there are named characters in the universe that they could, throw in there. That could be interesting.
Princess, what's her face from?
Yes, you'll pick up some princesses to fight in your lances. God. I'm sure the fucking houses won't mind the fact that their daughters are dying in your lance. Lovely. It's some no-named little shitty single-lanced merc company. I doubt that. I think Mr. Merrick would be a little pissed.
What's her face of the Arano restoration is going to be completely.
Oh, Kamea! Oh God.
Oh yeah, that was.
Excuse me while I get her killed real quick. I'll take her cousin though. She is actually more interesting. I like her.
Lol.
She's a white evil woman.
She's not white. She was brown. You fucking colorblind bat.
Am I mixing up? Was that the one with the white hair?
Yeah, that's racist.
Actually, they looked more Maori to me, personally. Didn't they?
Maori? Nah.
They look a little
just
Maori.
For me, I had trouble telling like what color they were because like it was based on the lighting and the different.
Look, if they're gonna
Doesn't
make
even
these,
matter.
Let's face it, none of them mattered. They were all token characters. Every single character in that game was a token character, including yourself.
that's true. We had token black guy. We had token Muslim lady, who almost blew up the ship. It was almost a meme. I was like, come on, you can't actually do that. It's like, oh, I just locked out the ship, boss. My bad. My bad. He's trying to Allahu Akbar the ship into the planet, little bastard. That's a rare ship, too.
Hey, the Muslim tried to blow up everything?
Don't worry about
it.
No. Keep it universe specific. All she heard was the word of Blake.
Ah, yeah, there you go. Word of Blake.
Was the word of Blake even a thing back during the third
They're not
war?
separate, because Comstar and Word of Blake are together at this point. It's after the Battle of Tukiad when What's-Her-Tits gets shot in the back several times. When she's like, oh, you won't shoot me in the back if I turn my back on you. And walk out of this room. And the guy's like, oh, okay. And then she did and shot him.
Hold my bear. Bang.
He's dead. And that's when the Word of Blake pretty much went into exile. They went to the Free Worlds League. Rest is history. In the jihad.
Excuse me.
Anyway, moving on to the actual subject of the podcast that we're doing. Torso twisting. How efficient will the AI be at torso twisting? Was a question that was asked.
Really?
And the simple answer is not very, because the AI just ended up doing really weird and stupid things while they were trying to make it efficient.
Oh, God.
So, like, the kind of armor rolling that you would do in Mechwarrior Online in order to spread damage across the mech. It's not going to do that because it was really bad at doing it.
So
it'll be like Mechwarrior 2, because they did that in Mechwarrior 2 Mercenaries. When it torso twists, like, it's, like, awkward, because, like, it turns to do it, but it's also, like, I'm turning my body to face you, and so then it had to turn back to the right to fucking face you, because it just kept countering itself. Oh, God.
They're trying to avoid that, so it's going to... Basically, if it's targeting you, it's going to be looking at you face on, basically.
So it will not
be moving
torso
legs
twist.
in a direction, but it's not going to try to roll damage across its armor.
Oh,
It's
that's
not going to present its left side in order to avoid damage to its right, and those sorts of things. It's not.
I don't think the AI would comprehend that very well either, so I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Will the enemies have a chain of command and react to changes in it, such as in Halo? Will killing the elites cause the grunts to panic?
Or killing the lance commander, I guess, for this situation.
Yeah. This isn't going to be a thing.
Damn, that would actually be kind of cool. Kill the lance commander, and then all of a sudden the lance falls apart a little.
This is going to depend heavily on just how much tonnage of enemy mechs you've destroyed. So if you've destroyed, let's say, two of the assault mechs in a lance that had 2 assaults, a medium, and a light mech, and it was a really light medium, like, say, the Vindicator, those 2 might book it in that situation, but outside of that, no. There isn't a dynamic chain of command structure.
Well, I just said, oopsie, time to run.
One of the developer reasons for this was, like, how would you communicate that to the player? How does the player know who is actually the lance commander in this case?
True. You would only... That's kind of information that you'd need ECM for. And even then... Because then you could crack out who's giving the orders.
Yes.
That would be unique, but in this time period, honestly, ECM technology shouldn't be really available. Not in widespread.
I mean, it's going to go just up until right before the clan invasion, more or less.
So the Helm memory core will be rediscovered during this game. Okay. I mean, so we're probably going to see... Well, canonically, it is rediscovered before the clan invasion. And then the Grey Death Legion were like, hey, broadcast that shit. And then technology. Little renaissance of technology, at least. So we'll actually probably get to see that in this game.
Yeah, it's a possibility. Is it possible to disable enemy AI instead of killing them outright? No, by the way, I'm just going to be breezing through these questions, partially because I want to hurry things up a bit. We have been talking for an hour, and I really need to go pee.
You gotta go pee,
Yeah,
man.
same.
Oh my god,
So,
you guys.
After this question, potty break. So, can we disable enemy eye instead of killing them outright? Yes, if you shoot off their legs. Question answered. Going to... that is exactly what the dev said too.
Yeah, that's actually pretty funny.
So, one-leg weaponless pogo zombies will try to surrender or eject potentially. They're still experimenting with it.
Weaponless pogo zombies.
Anyway, I'm going to the washroom.
Okay. So, now everyone's going to recess for potty break. So, what does everyone think? Fairman, what do you think? Yes?
Sounds interesting. I mean, the game is in development hell/limbo for quite a long time, so yeah, should.
Well, I mean, development limbo, it's like they wanted to make it, then they didn't get the money, so they're like, we can't afford to make it. And now they are making it, and honestly, I think this is far more promising than the the trailer we got. Yeah, we know Hands, because they had to go pee too. Little bastard.
Nothing of value was lost anyway.
Nothing. Oh, Bubbles, did you hear that? Fairman and Hands are spitting at each other.
Bubbles is dead.
He's not dead.
I am dead.
Bubbles loves mechs.
Mechs are dumb.
You know what I hope? I hope there's a mod for Bubbles. It should be called the Bubble mod. And he can just play as a Tenku. Just drives around. He's like, I'm happy now.
I get to destroy mechs.
Honestly, I actually kind of would be okay with a BattleTech game exploring the ideas of the other elements of warfare. Like tanks. Tanks in particular interest me, because imagine how titanically epic it would be to fight mechs in a tank. That would be pretty cool.
You mech! I just got home.
Imagine the fear of seeing an Atlas. You'd be like, oh shit. But then again, there's different varieties of tanks.
It really depends
if
where
you have an equivalent tank, you should just roll all over the Atlas anyway. So
yeah, you should. Range, you should win.
I mean, the tanks can actually field the same equipment that mechs can. So they're equally matched weapon power-wise.
Except in the fluff. But also in the fluff.
The fluff is contradictory to itself, because it says that myomer fiber can't be used on anything, and it doesn't explain why. It's like, we can only use it on mechs, and I'm like reading it, like the book, and it's like, it stops there. And it doesn't give you a reason why they can't use it and everything else. It's like, no, they only use it on the mechs, because it's impossible to use it on anything else. It's like, how is it impossible to use myomer on anything else? Myomer could be used on anything. It's used in the power armor, for fuck's sake.
Reason to actually legitimize mechs.
I think it says that it can't be used on tanks and aircraft.
It's like, why not?
Because reasons.
Because if myomer is a muscle-like substance, then you could use it to like propel weapons and lift certain things, and it would cut down on the amount of energy use that would be needed, or fuel capacity, or whatever.
I don't think you want to propel weapons with that.
No. Like, I mean, you could lift a gun, so it could, like, arc up. I don't know.
You could use it for propulsion, for, I
don't know, the applications of myomer for armor and tanks could be cool. But they're like, nope, can't use it. It's like, what? I know the tanks have little fusion cores, and some of them do. I get that, some of those combustion ones, like, okay, whatever, but even still, myomer just needs electricity. And not that much to run, honestly. At least according to the fluff, it says that myomer can be used with, like, a little bit of electricity, too.
Myomer is a Deus Ex Machina of that universe.
Well, it is. It's one of the many. There's a couple of Deus, or not Deus Machinas, but they're magic systems. Myomer is a magic system, their fusion cores are magic, and then their jump drive system is magic, too. So I really like the jump drive.
The myomer manages to cross that 100% efficiency line.
The myomer is the stronger magic of all of them. There's not that many magics. The hyperpulse generators are technically magic too, I guess.
You believe in magic.
I believe in hyperpulse generators.
It's
just a Comstar. Telecom companies ruling the galaxy. Please, just make this happen. So fucking autistic, I love it.
Of course you love autism.
The best part about Comstar is how they're a pseudo cult, so they're all like, "Oh my god, we're super religious."
It's
It's like,
Was
what
that
the
only
fuck?
part of Comstar?
Only a part of it, yeah. That's the Blakis side of Comstar. And then they end up splitting. Honestly, I hated that. I like the idea of Comstar and the Blakis being like one, so you have this inner power struggle within this organization, and that's interesting. It's when they separated them that the inner, like the politics system for Comstar fell apart. It's like Comstar's like, I'm here just to be a good telecom company now. Like, lame. It was more interesting when
no
they...
telecom company ever.
I liked how they were sometimes... There was good elements and there were bad elements in it. That's what made it interesting, because the Blakis were the bad elements, because they're the religious nut jobs. And then you got the other guys who are, you know, just trying to maintain the communication system for the galaxy. Or the sphere, not the galaxy.
Okay, Imbeck.
Welcome back. All right.
Is Hensebeck.
Yes, he is. So we can resume now.
Okay, good. Right. Where do we leave off?
Will AI mechs get upgraded? Weapons or stock items?
This is okay, yeah. Enemy AI mech specifically. So this is going to be heavily dependent on story missions and mission difficulty. If you're going to be going up against a boss unit in a story campaign, or if you're going to be running up against, I don't know, some really good mercenary company, then these things might have better things. But if you're going to run against pirates, they're going to have poor armor typically, or bad weaponry, pirate variant weaponry, who knows.
Ooh, that's cool. I like that idea.
This has neither been confirmed nor denied yet, by the way. Just brute speculation on my end.
That's fair. I mean,
pirate weaponry.
Speculation is mostly what these end up turning into anyway, so no big deal. No worries.
Yeah. Next question. Will the AI take into account damage you do or allow the enemy to do to friendly buildings? So yeah, specifically when an enemy AI is defending a base, for example. If you do damage to buildings that it is trying to protect, you will aggro the enemy AI. If the buildings are neutral to the AI, it will try to destroy them as a target, potentially.
That's cool. I like that. Smashing, that actually fucking answers. I was actually thinking about that today while we were waiting.
Really?
Yeah, no, I was sitting there thinking as I was drawing the thumbnail for this, and I was like, God, I really hope that, like, Draconis Combine mechs don't, like, step on their own buildings, because that would piss me off a little. Oh, that does answer that question. That's good news. Okay.
And in regards to neutral buildings specifically, say you're hiding behind a piece of cover. We've mentioned before that the AI will try to shoot through that cover in order to get at you, try to destroy it if you're hiding behind it for too long.
Yep, if it's destructible.
This is, of course, going to be dependent on a number of things. Say if it's going to be easier to just circumnavigate that piece of cover, or say you're behind two buildings, it's not going to try to punch through two buildings. It'll try to maneuver into a position where it can actually shoot at you. So,
I mean, that makes sense though, right, Smashing? Because imagine, like, if you enter a city and the AI is like, oh, well, I'll just shoot through all the buildings to get to them.
It'll just suddenly start raising its own base and helping you in order to get at you.
It's like, nice, I achieved my objective just hiding behind this wall. Leaves.
Have a lightning running around.
Yeah.
Oh, like these old action movies where the hero in trying to defend the city actually does more damage than the plan of the evil guy would ever do. But then again, from everything I heard, it would be very BattleTech.
Well,
retarded.
Well, no, it depends.
It depends. BattleTech is only depending.
Well, yeah, for example, like, look, an AI isn't going to start shooting through the wall of its own base in order to try to get at you.
It's like
it's trying to defend that base. The wall is part of that base. If you're hiding behind the wall, it's going to try to go around the wall.
It's like, I'm going to blow up my own base. Like, why would you do that?
Yeah, maybe out of spite.
I mean, if it was Word of Blakis, it would make sense because they're retarded. So yeah, I could see it.
You will get our snack bars.
They're like, Allahu Akbar. Actually, no, Allahu Blake Bar. There we go.
I'm skipping over some of these questions.
Okay, let me know how many because I'm following along so people could see.
I'm currently up to our AI's Lancemates, more like Mechwarrior 4 and BattleTech,
Okay.
where they just have a sound set and a name, or are they more like Mechwarrior 3, where they comment on events and objectives? A bit of both. We already touched upon this a bit earlier in the podcast. But yeah, it depends on. Like, they're not going to be too fleshed out. They're not going to have really hammy voice acting lines, most likely.
Well, I mean, we saw one of the trailers with some pretty hammy lines, like, "Oh, this place looks so nice. I'd like to live here one day." And then they destroy the city. It's like, oh my god.
Oh yeah, boy.
Well, yeah, it might have like that glitch speaking to you right before a mission when you drop in BattleTech, for example. Like that sort of stuff. Wow, I want to build a snowman. Fuck off, glitch.
It's the goddamn desert.
She hasn't had that glitch yet.
That'd be funny. That would be much more comical if she said it in the desert.
Do you want to build a Sandman?
I'm gonna have to lynch you now. I'm flying up to Canada. Actually, why don't I fly? I can just drive. Fuck.
Anyway.
Anyways.
Next question.
Will the game make changes for following missions when players make wrongful decisions, like accidentally causing too much civilian damage to structures and buildings over the course of the campaign? Like, will you gain a reputation for destroying buildings? It seems like no, because typically if you're trying to be defending buildings, well, you'll fail the mission if too many of them get destroyed anyway, so that'll be the main limiting factor on you. You won't suddenly get a reputation for being a literal home wrecker.
Oh god. Somebody they could make like a dynamic quest system. Like if you destroy too many buildings, some guy will come after you at some point and be like, "You killed my family."
No. Like, that is like Skyrim levels of Radiant AI bullshit. I'll take a pass on that.
It would be so random. You'd be like, "What are you talking about? I've killed hundreds of
dragon
families."
fight. Go away.
Oh god.
Do you not see the three Dremor eyes?
Magically know that you stole something from them. That sent assassins after you. And if you go there, they are, "Oh, hello, my friend." What?
Oh boy. Moving on. Retaliation AI. So, is it going to be like Halo style in that if you attack your teammates, are they going to start firing back at you after some point? The devs were a bit coy with this. They basically said, try and find out.
Okay, so I'm gonna elaborate on this because actually, no, on the previous games, yes, they retaliate. All of them that I remember. Mechwarrior 2, they shot me for shooting them. Mechwarrior 3, yes.
Of course, Kibs knows
and Mechwarrior 4, also yes.
Fire.
So they
You
do.
probably did it.
Well, yeah, I did because I wanted to kill the tutorial mech telling me what to do. He's like, "If you shoot me again, pilot, I'll fucking kill you." And I'm like, I'm just gonna shoot you one more time. So in the previous titles, they did do it. I could easily see that being a thing now, and they only really do it if you actually like you shoot like a full alpha strike into them. Is like, "Hey, fucking stop it." I mean, honestly, I'd be saying more than just that, but you do it a second time, and they do return fire. And then they won't stop shooting until
they
you
haven't told us anything about thresholds, even, in this regard. They just told us to try it and find out.
That means we are going to have to try it now.
Well, there was only one way this was going to go.
Oh, it's funny.
Okay, this one's actually a bit interesting. Because it does touch upon the stealth subject that was brought up earlier. How will the AI specifically handle visual and sensor differences? What the dev said is that the AI has an awareness state internally. Essentially, it always asks itself the question, do I think there is anything in a specific region at all? Can I identify it as a friend or a foe? And so on and so forth. So, what this essentially means is that setting up ambushes is going to be relatively difficult due to the ability of, well, being able to spot a giant mechs quite easily.
Yeah. It does raise a question. Actually, good question.
It's always
here
trying
for
to check its
Smashy.
sensors, it's trying to check its line of sight, all of that sort of nonsense.
So, Sebastian, did they confirm or deny powering down?
This is addressed, although in regards to the AI riding its overheat threshold.
Yeah, but can you manually shut down your mech?
The player, I don't know. That actually wasn't asked or addressed in regards to the player specifically, but in regards to the AI, essentially, the AI is never going to try to turn on its override, its shutdown override. It is instead going to, depending on its skill level, ride the overheat threshold better or worse. So if it's a better skilled pilot, it's going to be more effectively using its energy weapons and managing its heat more efficiently because it knows exactly how much heat it will generate, and so it'll fire immediately when it has the heat threshold necessary. All of these sorts of things. But
Well, I was more so alluding to being able to shut down your mech because in the other games, it puts you off the radar. You stop lighting up as a target. So you could have a light bait other mechs into a valley or something, and then have your friends power back up once it enters combat. So you could bait it into a trap. So it could run past them with its back to your allies. They'd power up and then just salvo it in the back.
I hadn't considered that.
We did in the older ones. I remember that because Mechwarrior 4, you can put the missions into the multiplayer and then you can play them with friends.
This is actually what this does bring up an interesting discussion in regards to PGI's vision for how this game is going to play out. Essentially, tactical dynamics of this sort of complexity aren't the sort of experience they're aiming for, it seems.
Yep, I know. But if you can power off, you should actually be able to pull it off. Because in the mechanics of the game itself...
We'd have to ask that. We'd have to ask them if the shutdown does function the way you are saying it functions right now.
I mean, it functions like that in MWO.
One would assume it to function the same way as it does in MWO, or any of the other Mechwarrior games.
It is
interesting. Like, they weren't answering this question too directly. I assume the player will have the capacity to shut down or override their own mech. That is a risk that the player will be able to take. So yeah, if that's the sort of tactical stuff you want to pull off, and if you can pull it off, and well, co-op is going to make this much easier, depending on how kiteable the enemy AI is, you will see greater or lesser success with this. The dev stance is essentially experiment around with it. If you can make it work, congratulations.
Yep, and that's something we'll have to do when we get our hands on the copy. Or the beta, I should say.
My hands!
Right,
well, you chose that, man.
There's the reaction we were looking for. But anyway, while we're on the subject, I will finish the thought of the enemy AI using override. And specifically, the dev said in regards to that the AI won't use it. Mostly because, again, it's going to be really difficult to communicate to the player when it is overriding its mech.
You wouldn't know.
Yeah.
How would you know?
Like in testing, that was what came up. Like, the testers didn't actually know when the enemy mech was overriding. It just seemed to be always vomiting lasers out. And
then eventually exploding.
Is it being really efficient with its heat management, or is it actually just going into its override?
Well, another way they could convey that it's going override or at heat levels is HBS. I like their approach to the heat system visually. Like the mech was starting to steam, and then it was just it was a little bit over the top when it was overheated because it just glowed.
Well, yeah,
like it was molten. I was just like, okay, is that even okay?
That none of our
just likes the idea of people getting cooked alive.
I mean, I know for a fact that you can actually your pilot can catch fire in the tabletop.
Really?
I'm pretty sure. I've read a rule somewhere where the pilot's like, oh yeah, he can burn to death. It's like, what the fuck?
I mean, why not?
It gets hot enough in there, I guess. I mean, that's why in the artwork they're always naked and they're wearing like fucking Speedos or swimsuits.
So they actually have an explanation for being kinky.
Well, yeah, no, Mechwarriors don't wear a lot of clothing most of the time. It depends on the cooling suits.
On the inside.
Mm-hmm.
It's hot in more than one way.
Because if you put on more clothing, you could pass out from heat exhaustion.
Don't they have these cooling vests?
Yes, they have cooling vests and other stuff to help keep them cool.
Mechs are retarded. Prove me wrong.
You can leave this chat at any time. Nobody is stopping you, but we are encouraging it.
I mean, we encourage Furman to jump off a bridge almost regularly, so
Someone needs to be the voice of reason, since Bubbles is too brain dead at the moment.
Bubbles is a good girl. Okay, you leave him alone. Or her.
That's stupid.
This
is like the second time you've spoken so far.
We love Bubbles. He's a cute girl.
No. He said something while you were being away, so.
He actually did.
I think I said that makes it stupid.
No, you said more than just that.
Yeah, but I said that makes it stupid.
Bubbles. You were just a sad girl, okay? Sad girls don't get cookies. Now, next question. Yay! Or we'll actually be here forever.
Well, okay.
Do you need help? Know where we're at? Or
no, I know where we're at. It's just trying to remember which ones I already answered in advance.
Oh yeah, what you answered in advance, because well, you're strong lad. Yes, strong lad. That's what we'll say.
Somebody asked about, given that the Oblivion style skill level up system in this game, like, will it be exploitable in the sense that you can farm it? Yeah, if you want to. There's nothing more that really needs to be said about that. Yeah, I've already addressed simple vehicle AI. Okay, jump jets. Can the AI utilize them for navigation? The dev said that they do use jump jets. They haven't coded them to jump on buildings in order to gain sniping positions.
Damn.
Not sure how far they can go for initial release, they said, which is a bit of an ominous statement.
Initial release means their intention is to patch it in later. Probably.
Well, okay. The way they said this actually was that jump jets and their use with terrain, and specifically buildings and that sort of nonsense, would require generating nav meshes on buildings and would thus make the AI scripting really complex.
Because the buildings are also destructible?
Well, because they're vertical. It's like, okay, try not to land on a vertical face of a building. Please try to land on top of it. And also, can your jump jets actually go that high and all
the AI has to be like, yes, it can go that high. Or it'll just continually try to and just rub up against the side of the building.
Yeah, it's just like, I want to give hugs.
Destroys
the building instead.
Slowly grinds through it.
No, my friend.
Oh.
I destroyed him with my bulk.
It's okay, though. We love mechs. Mechs are, well, some of us do. I have to clarify.
Anyway, so yeah, jump jets are going to be used more for brawling maneuvers mid-combat. So maybe a light mech will try to jump over and behind you. Your mileage may vary. It'll try to turn itself around faster, that sort of stuff. Someone asked a question about persistent enemies during the AMA, Shadow of Mordor style. Outside of story missions, no. The procedural missions outside of the story are going to be succeed or fail style missions. So whoever you run into, you're going to be destroyed during that mission.
You know, that's actually an interesting thing, though. Maybe in the future, not now, but a Nemesis-like system for other companies and different commanders
could be fun.
Could be fun. It could be really annoying.
They didn't really add anything to Shadow of Mordor.
Yeah, no, that's the problem. Like, they maybe make them talk.
It takes up
less.
a lot of development time, but has it ever been done successfully?
Shadow of Mordor didn't really do it properly, in my opinion, because it felt watery. So at the same time,
it feels empty in the Shadow of Mordor.
Yeah. So
it sounds like one of those features that is put in mostly as reviewer bait.
It's like, hey, look, that's really cool. You play it the first time, like, wow, that's cool. Like, all these enemies have personalities. And then once you start encountering the same personality archetypes over and over again, you're like, oh, that's not as fun as I thought it was.
Yeah.
So, yeah, honestly, I think, like what Bubbles said, like, probably not. Not in the way Shadow of Mordor did it. Maybe, like, you recognize that commander's name, but maybe don't make it so you engage with him verbally, because that might make it dumb.
Yeah, I think it'll be largely limited down to, like, oh, I fought this mercenary company before.
Yeah, it's the same commander
They
or something.
sent out more cannon fodder for me. Yay.
So you could sort of have, like, a repertoire, but not... don't try to make it personal because it comes off bad, especially in a procedural game.
If it ever is supposed to be personal, it should be personal because something is making it personal for you, not because the game wants it to be personal.
Yeah, so you hate that mech commander because he killed one of your pilots last battle, you know? Or he took off your arms and you're like, oh, those were super expensive to fix.
Don't force it through plot either, because that always goes terrible.
Yeah, no, just make it more natural. Like, you hate him because you hate him. Or Mass Effect 3. Is that what you said?
Yes, you did.
Yes.
He's like, I hate him because the plot tells me to.
Fuck, is that a weeb character that you're supposed to hate was just like...
Oh god, the weeb!
That has basically the same effect that your character has on everyone, which is whenever that character's around, your character becomes retarded. Just like whenever your character's on, everyone around you becomes retarded.
Yeah. That's bad writing.
Who?
That's
Bubbles,
a good answer to that.
Well, no, Bubbles' analogy to the issue with making the characters in Mechwarrior, have that sort of nemesis system is that forcing you to hate or like someone is bad, because look at how Mass Effect 3 did it with the assassin character that Cerberus sends after you. Like, he's not fun. He's not engaging. And if they do that in Mechwarrior 5...
Surprised you remembered his name.
If they do it in Mechwarrior 5, it wouldn't be a fun mechanic, would it? Like, yeah, that Draconis guy, he's, like, Japanese and stuff, and he's super weeby, but do you really hate him? Is the game, like, just trying to force you to hate him? Because he's Draconis and he shot at you once. You should hate him because of something else, like you personally do, not because you are told to. What was this, man?
I hate to be like the downer here, but it's probably going to be the case of the game forcing us to hate the guy because plot armor or plot contrivance.
I mean, if there's a plot, yes. In the storyline, if there's probably going to be like, this guy fucked your family, and so you gotta fuck his family or something. I mean, that's really what it turns into. I'm not saying sexual. I'm saying we murder Kate him. Okay, like you guys always go to sexual.
There's a fine line to Ryan there. You shouldn't hate him because the game is forcing you to hate him, because that usually just means you hate the game.
It means you made to hate the game. That's bad though.
Wait, isn't that what, like, all of those 12-year-olds in Call of Duty were telling us the whole time? Don't hate the player, hate the game.
No, what they tell you is that they fucked your sister.
I didn't play Call of Duty enough to know that they said that. What's that say about you?
They actually didn't, but whatever.
No, smashing.
Really
No, my narrative.
Old people say in Call of Duty, but okay.
He's like, no. See, yes, we're gonna paint you as a Call of Duty player now. It's too late. It's too late. I'm gonna write COD on the thumbnail.
That was a Halo guy.
That's the spirit. Halo's bad.
I was a Call of Duty 1 guy, but I'm old, so...
Wow.
The first one was actually good, though.
Fairman's an old bat, so, you know.
You need someone to help you with your meals
and the old folks online, so yeah.
Old folks home for Fairman. It's kind of funny.
Don't worry, Kibs, you'll get there eventually.
Oh, that's true.
Something to aspire towards.
Something to aspire towards.
I wouldn't go that far.
I wouldn't go that far either. I aspire to be an old folks home. Yay! Fucking no.
On the other hand, though, you'll be so happy just because you're so retarded.
Oh,
but I'm already retarded and not happy.
Well, you don't know. Don't diss it till you try, Fairman.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Moving on.
I tried having pain. It didn't help.
So, tiny question was asked about will you be able to order around non-landsmate AI? So say you're in a mission where there are allied AI vehicles or allied AI mechs that aren't under your direct command. Can you also give them commands? No. But you'll be able to work alongside them. They'll follow their own scripts, however.
That's kind of cool. I do like the idea of allied units on the map. That makes the battles so much bigger. In fact, Mechwarrior 4 had this. There was this one battle in this desert canyon with this, like 2 lances of allied mechs against like I don't remember, 3 enemy lances supported by armored columns, and it was pretty epic because the battle was massive.
I think they're gonna try that in a story mission. Definitely.
It was a popular
mission. They're gonna want to pull
probably
off that spectacle.
The idea of partaking in a large confrontation. That would be so cool, because when you get into a properly large battle where there's tons of tanks and mechs, and it's a proper house-on-house fucking orgy. It's just amazing. So much
orgies.
So much lasers. Oh, your eyes.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if you fired a lot of lasers and you don't have fucking glasses, you probably would.
Okay, so in the cockpit actually helps deal with that. So you also have a visor most of the time, so you'll be fine.
I mean, if
unless the laser goes through the cockpit and hits you in the face, you'll be okay.
Ow.
Light shows, my boys.
Light for a laser show.
Is there a pilot's attribute? Mm-hmm.
For the 10 a.m. AMA, I'm going to wrap things up with the final question.
Are we going to the bottom?
Yeah, we're all the way at the bottom.
Good lord.
Someone asked what was the biggest challenge that the dev team faced in building its AI. And as said before, largely making it can behave in a consistent and believable manner that is also interesting to fight. So they want to polish down locomotion derps, and they want to make sure that the class and loadout of a mech feels right. So that an Atlas that is lerm-boated, for example, is going to maybe stay at the back of the map rather than trying to brawl. Although, I don't think the AI is going to lerm-boat an Atlas.
It would be kind of funny. And what he means by learn boat is LRM boat, but he just can't pronounce.
I know.
He's retarded. Leave him alone.
Talks like a fucking slug.
Lerm. I mean, LRMs are retarded.
I've been hanging out on MWO Discord. Sue me.
Oh my god, Bubbles, attack him now. He's vulnerable. Go for the throat. We still are trying to break him of the MWO thing. Okay, Smashin, serious question. How many Mechwarrior games have you played?
How many Mechwarrior games have I played? Mechwarrior Online is the first one.
Oh my god, please, for the love of God, play Mechwarrior 4 Mercenaries. For your sake. For your sake.
I will at some point, but honestly, coming out of... Look, my justification has always been that going out from World of Tanks, the transition to Mechwarrior Online has been more than pleasant, because...
Well, we all hear the horror stories of that.
It does what World of Tanks does, but way better.
You go from one shit game to another shit.
Oh god, I brought Bubbles here specifically for this.
Baby steps, Bubbles boy.
Okay, maybe in 50 years you'll finally play a good game.
No!
Oh, back in my day, I used to play so many shit games.
That's my routine.
Back in my day, our parents just forced us
to back to the old folks' home, Fairman.
We will break Smashing. You will play good games, goddammit.
I do play good games.
He's like, I do. Mechwarrior Online is a good game. You will be fixed. You can be saved. I believe you can be saved.
I don't think so.
Anyway, look forward to my review of Mechwarrior Online, where I will go into detail as to why I think it is a good game, and until then, withhold judgment.
Withhold judgment. I don't think it's possible.
It is in the works.
Yeah. Don't dare play it before he can try to convince you that it's good.
Yeah, don't. No, I urge you to play it and then watch the review after. Then you can be like, "Where does this? What is he smoking?"
And we're
Either
trying to
or.
some.
Like, your mileage may vary.
Either or. Oh. Oh no! Like,
look, I'm not trying to proselytize to anyone.
Well, how many drugs are you on right
now?
He's thinking about it. There's some.
What you qualify as a drug?
Any sort of medication that could make you
caffeine?
like Mechwarrior Online, like some
Valium.
delusional drugs, you know, make you a little disillusioned, disenfranchised.
Disenfranchised is a state of mind I have about society in general, but well.
See, you play Mechwarrior Online. Oh my god, we need to help him. We have to stop this.
Yeah, I mean,
there are so many games out there, Smashed. Yet so many good games that are looking at you like, play me.
This way. You can take the tiger out of the jungle, but you can't take the jungle out of the tiger.
I mean, you can put the jungle inside of the tiger.
This means you're not trying hard enough.
I mean, I don't want to be impaled by a physical copy of Mechwarrior Online, if that's what you're trying to tell me. Or, like, take the hard disk that it's installed on, polish it down into a knife point, and then, like, gut me. I'd prefer to avoid these sorts of things.
He's like, Mechwarrior Online did kill me, as he's laying there bleeding out.
Death by bad game.
Poetic irony.
I mean, if we really want to make it work, I guess we could do that, but it's kind of like forcing the narrative a little hard.
Kibs,
alas, poor Smastian, I knew him well.
Not really, but...
Wait, did you say Saskian?
Smastian.
I knew it, he's the Russian.
I thought it was Saskian. I was like, what's a Saskian? Is it Sasky?
Anyway.
Okay, now we're on to the second AMA. Look at that halfway there, boys.
Yeah. A lot of this we can breeze through a lot.
Yeah, this one's going to be quick
because
most of the second ones are duplicates. Let me know where you're at so I can... Because I'm assuming you're skimming.
I have to go over this again. This is actually an important question. I'm actually going to read the question out loud in full. In this morning's AMA, so that is to say the 10 a.m. AMA of 2 Wednesdays ago, you declared most of the AI behavior is based on the aggro system. I'm wondering what happens when new enemies arrive to an in-progress skirmish but have not yet been fired upon. So is the aggro table instantly shared with all enemies who spawn onto the map, thus omnisciently governing AI behavior, or instead will newly arrived enemies select targets and or tactics based on certain heuristics independent from the aggro table?
Ooh.
I would like to give head pats to whoever asked this question, because this is the sort of in-depth, what's the word I'm looking for? Like,
it's got meat to it. It's asking specifics, and it's being like to the point what it wants to get to. I know what you're saying.
It doesn't let the developers answer it lackadaisically.
They can be like, yeah, sure, or no, yes, well, yes and no. It's like, no, it's specific, and it's like kind of forcing them to come out with the actual answer.
Yes. And so their answer then was that each unit has an aggro value, which we've already talked about, based on how much damage it has done within X span of time. The more damage a unit is doing, the higher its aggro. But that isn't enough on its own, as new groups will see the engagement, they'll notice your aggro values, and they'll weigh it against an optimal approach path for them, which is governed by its sensor range, the kind of pings it's receiving from its AI counterparts that are already in battle, its weapon ranges, and that sort of stuff. So it won't be... What the takeaway from this, I think, should be that whoever has the highest aggro on your team isn't immediately going to be focused fired by any new incoming reinforcement waves, because that would be patently unfair. I mean, it would be smart of the AI to do so, but it wouldn't make for the interesting sort of combat that the devs are looking for.
Yeah.
So instead, you will probably be able to kite lance mates who have lower aggro values in front of, or in between, higher aggro value lance mates and incoming reinforcement waves.
Which, that confirms that reinforcements are going to be a thing. And we do know that already. Just curious as to how that works, and is there a limit?
It might have to do with like a certain help ping range. Like when an AI asks for help, it'll only go out to a certain distance, perhaps. So it won't just aggro all enemies on map.
They did. Oh, do you remember the footage they showed where when you evac, they drop every footage I've seen. Every time you evac, there's always like a reinforcement if there's an evac mission, and it's some sort of giant dropship, either Union class or something. Like I'm wondering, can you stand and fight that, or do you have to just retreat?
I mean, how big are your balls, and how well can you control the stick?
Look, with the right amount of players and a good lance, you could probably fucking pick them off if you get in a good position, because they have to deploy. So you get first grabs at a firing position.
Nobody is going to pick up on the masterbation joke I just made.
No, I'm too busy focusing on can we get more salvage? Look, as the greedy whore that I am, I'm thinking about the sea bills here. He's like,
yeah.
That's where the real bills are. The sea bills.
Yeah, you are a Blake cultist at heart, aren't you?
Need them cum bills. Oh wait, that doesn't sound good.
And you still
it's Comstar bills, but it's like let's just sort it to like a middle, like com bills. But it sounds like if you say it too fast, it sounds like cum bills, and it just doesn't quite work out.
That's just you, Kibs.
Look, I'm not the only one. Okay.
Sure.
I'm not the only one. Now, next question.
Okay. Will the AI ever commit friendly fire? No. Not intentionally, anyway.
Just an Atlas unloads a full salvo into the back of a little locust and just dies.
I mean, this has to do with like the devs are trying to avoid stupid actions on the AI's part. They'll tend to avoid running in front of each other, but in edge scenarios, they likely may.
Oh no!
Their answer kind of contradicts itself.
But at the same time, if an AI notices it has a teammate in front of it, it won't fire. It'll be able to detect that.
So if it's firing its laser, because you know how the laser fires in Mechwarrior, and it'll go until it stops, and something forces it to move in front, it's just gonna eat a full laser in the back. Ooh. Or at least a piece of it.
It'll make for some dynamic situations, so they won't remove it entirely, I think. But they'll try to make sure that the AI avoids team kills.
I mean, it'd be kind of silly if the game kills the enemies for you.
This wasn't really an AI question. I just found it amusing that someone asked if friendly pirates can be hired and fired. Yes.
What?
Anyway, moving on to actual AI questions.
Well, no, that's actually... I mean, you can hire new pilots, right? That's what that means?
Yeah. I mean, this was already addressed in prior AMAs,
yep,
though.
I do remember they mentioned it briefly.
Moving back to the topic, however, will AI players be able to take control of disconnected co-op players? And how is experience gain handled? Excuse me. The apple's coming back with a vengeance. Anyway.
Yeah.
And how would XP gain for the AI players be handled in the case of being replaced by the human and so forth? XP gain, first off, will be passive for whatever AI pilot you have put in, and whoever is taking control of it in co-op will just acquire or accrue skill points for that AI pilot naturally. But in regards to AIs taking over of DC co-op players, they're somewhat dodging the question on this because they are not sure they're going to want to code it in. I don't see why they wouldn't, but they currently don't have good plans for it.
Yeah.
They still need to talk about it internally, is what they said. Do they want to do this? Is it feasible funding and scope wise, or is it just better to have a bare bones disconnect system and just have your AI or human co-pilot just essentially have a dud mech on the field?
Because I remember there was a question
be limited
about
by technical reasons, but
like
I don't see how.
There was a question. Remember the last AMA where somebody had asked if you joined, like, let's say I joined Bubbles' game, right? But I don't bring my mech. I don't bring my pilot. I play as one of his pilots and use one of his mechs. And one of the people asked, like, one of the concerns was, what if somebody joins a game and a friend just comes over and just dicks you over, blows up the mech and then leaves? It's like, well, then you just have bad friends.
Well, then you need to get better friends.
Yeah, pretty much. But it's one of those situations where it's like, can friends bring their own custom mechs? And they did say that you could in the instant action mode. Or that they want, no, not that you could, but they wanted to make it feasible for instant action that you can bring your own custom stuff into the instant action mode, which is basically sort of like free play missions. You can just pick missions that you want to play.
I imagine it'll follow a system similar to what group drops are in Mechwarrior Online. You'll have some sort of tonnage limit, and then so long as you fit that tonnage limit, congratulations, take whatever you want. Put together your own mech, and then field it as your thing in combat in the instant action. Yeah. Easy peasy.
That should work.
Hold on, just reading over a question. Okay, this is actually an interesting question to answer. Someone asked if one of the main things that seems to be a trend among the devs answers so far is that they want to avoid making the AI boring. And why many people prefer combat against human players is because of this aforementioned problem of predictability. So are they going to be implementing scripts specifically to deal with this in order to make the AI less predictable, including possibly seemingly irrational decisions, even by higher level AI? The devs once again sidestepped the question by saying essentially it depends on how they want to, or whether or not the engagement will be interesting. They want to balance this around class roles, mech roles, and that sort of stuff. Tanks are meant to be fodder, therefore they're not going to be super tactical. Mechs have a lot more that they can do, therefore they are the more interesting thing to fight, and as a result we'll have more expanded AI scripts. And they want a minimum of predictability so that you can, so that new players can learn what the weak spot on a mech is, what are the parts they should be focusing on in order to incapacitate mechs like Hunchbacks, Centurions, Panthers, that sort of stuff. Boss enemies, they said, is where they want to put a greater emphasis on unpredictability, and it'll largely be tied, again, however, to loadouts. And also the bosses will be more aggressive than typical AI enemies. And where they ended off this answer was that compared to MechCon, they've put in 3 to 4 times more AI behaviors, as was seen at MechCon. So make of that what you will, but it's a bit of vagary here. Ultimately, I think the takeaway should be that the AI is going to be fairly predictable in its movements.
Yep. But that's honestly, I mean, it's one of those situations where once we get our hands on it, see the AI's base, like, okay, is it like boring? Is it how bad or how good is it? And then on top of that, considering how open they are with the AI scripts, I imagine that we're going to see, the modding community come in to sort of beef up that area, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I hope.
They probably will. I mean, look at how
I don't know. I was thinking as you were saying this, Smash, and I was just hoping, I don't know, that we see something more robust, because I'm all for difficulty, and I like the idea of, enemies being complex and interesting to fight. I like the idea of mechs being complex and interesting. I like the idea of variations of VTOL craft and helicopters and tanks also being on complex scripts. And because they're so open, then in theory, assuming somebody who knows what they're doing and a good modder can go in and make those systems more complex easily. Because the foundation's already in place. All you have to do is just make it go.
Yeah. And actually, while we're on this subject, this might be a good reason as to why they're so loath to put in difficulty sliders. because they are. It seems like they're leaning very heavily on drawing in a new crowd of Mechwarrior players. So
they're gonna have to. Most
difficulty
of the
sliders are problematic in this sense because if AI behavior is going to be tied to the difficulty slider, and your goal is to try to teach people how to deal with certain mech chassis or variants, then you do throw a bit of you do make that job more difficult of teaching new players how to interact with the game. Like,
I don't think
do you want to throw people into the Shark Tank in?
I mean, well, I don't think that's really going to be an issue personally. I imagine we're going to get a lot of new players into the franchise, purely because it's a new game. It's what could it be conflated with in modern terms? I think honestly we could conflate this with things like, it doesn't really make sense, but the closest things are Vermintide or Deep Rock Galactic and this proceduralness. I mean, it's a very different beast of a game, but it operates on a similar threshold, if that makes sense. You have procedurally generated missions. You have a clear defined variety of objectives. These ones are a little bit more complex than those games. Those games mostly are achieve this objective and exfiltrate. This one is achieve those objectives, sometimes exfiltrate, and then there's a lot more depth and variety to them, and there's a little bit extra complexity. But I think, like, you're looking for... I mean, I think that those people will be attracted to this because of its design as well. I don't know. I feel like they will be.
Yeah, I mean, I understand where you're going. I just find Vermintide to be a poor comparison.
No, you're right. It is a poor comparison. It's just it's the only games that are remotely similar in the way they function. Because you still level up and get like items and equipment in this game too.
Yeah.
But you have to, do the missions, get salvage, get C-bills, buy them off the market, sell your items and stuff like that. There's much more complexity here. But, Vermintide's a different beast. Which, honestly, Deep Rock Galactic is a little better, in my opinion, because it even has the ship hub. Which is kind of similar. Oh, man. They need to add a bar to the leopard so you can get drunk. You can drop into a mission drunk. Yes! You can drop into a mission drunk as a Mechwarrior. Please make that a thing.
Wait, what? Why are leopard players drunk?
No, not leopard players. It's the fact that the leopard dropship would probably have a bar inside of it. For the crew to wind down.
For morale reasons.
Damn right. Maybe
not
some stripper
because,
pools.
Like, the company commander is a raging alcoholic.
He's suffered some serious trauma, okay? Leave him alone. He's trying to cope by drinking depressants.
Depressant? Oh, normally people try to do that with antidepressants.
Well, too bad. He's now going to get depressed.
Okay, just breezing through some of these questions because they've already been answered. Yeah, in regards to stealth armor and ECM, ECM is going to exist, but stealth armor is not in the timeline. AI detection of ECM mechs is going to be based largely on LOS and the AI sensors. Well, ECM reduces the pickup range for an AI sensor, so it will modify that. They'll have a tougher time getting target locks, that sort of stuff. Typical electronic countermeasures nonsense.
I'm wondering how in depth those are going to be.
And this is a really interesting one, and nobody asked this question, but the devs did answer it here for some reason. That if you're going to be stomping through buildings, the enemy AI will hear you and will go to investigate the destruction.
That's nice.
Yep, because the external mics can pick up auditory from certain directions and stuff like that. Just like they have external speakers.
You probably don't need an external mic, so.
Well,
so yeah.
I mean, if you hear loud crashing, yeah.
I think, Kibs, have you ever heard a building coming down?
Yes, I worked in construction for a little bit. I know what it sounds like.
So you probably don't.
It's loud as fuck.
Yeah.
Especially these
so the AI
not enough to kill but still not enough to kill a fucking Volvo.
Steel squeals like a little bit.
The AI will be able to hear buildings being destroyed, but would they be able to hear mechs walking around them then?
Are there any sort of acoustic detection systems? Because I know like the sensors in BattleTech are supposed to function on sort of like seismic system as opposed to just pure radar.
The mechs can pick up external sounds.
It's
I was just going off.
complex
It's
suite
like
of
that they
systems.
can.
Well, because
They
they
can, like,
I
hear it,
remembered a
so-
couple sequences where mechs would you clip on their external speakers to talk to some of the infantry outside of the mech, and then they could actually pick up what they were saying. Because they have external mics. They have to. How the hell would they be able to hear the little infantrymen talk to them?
Yeah, fair point.
Kinda weird.
Superhuman hearing, withstanding.
Like, powerful ears. Damn.
Listen with your powerful ears.
An interesting question that was asked was, will your AI lance mates be more likely to take fatal hits for you when you're under fire, like a sort of loyalty system? Simply put, no. Largely because it takes too much agency away from the player, and it may directly contravene the kind of orders that you received from.
Yeah, that would be kind of annoying. They have low loyalty, so they'd ignore your orders. Like, oh my fuck! Like you wouldn't pay
get out
them.
of the way so you can get shot better.
They're mercenaries. They're working for you. They're part of your company. They get a paycheck. If they want to get their goddamn paycheck, they better do what you tell them.
Okay, cool. As we were recording this, I just got informed by a moderator on the Mechwarrior 5 Discord that one of my messages got deleted.
Why? What did you do?
What did you do?
Essentially, I directed someone to a website where they could potentially get a ROM version of Mechwarrior 4, given that it's basically
no, they don't like that. Despite it is technically considered freeware, but freeware is technically one of those things. But it's like nobody's enforcing the rights to it. At the same time, it's like it's in that gray area, and they're definitely against that. So yeah, no, you can go to like what is it? There's a place you can go to pick
We'll
up.
avoid mentioning it just for the sake of not bringing it up again.
He's like, don't ban me.
Yeah, he essentially said, don't worry, we won't ban you this time, or won't warn you this time for it officially, but just be aware that this is a thing.
Yep, they're pretty harsh about that. Which, actually, no, that's one thing I want to bring up. Not the site in particular, but I would like, and I hope that PGI will one day put the Mechwarrior games on GOG or something so we can have access to those again.
That would be pretty bloody good.
Then we could go back to and work like easy fixes on Windows 10. You have no idea how fucking painful it is to get Mechwarrior 2 working. Oh my god, that was awful. I had to like set up like a virtual drive and do a bunch of other bullshit. It wasn't the worst thing ever, but like it's one of those games where it's a headache.
What, Mechwarrior 2 was basically made for the Amiga at some point, wasn't it?
Oh god,
that was still Amiga days.
Anyway, give me PTSD. No.
Anyway, getting back on topic. Will the AI perform hit and run attacks when they're outgunned, or will they simply flee and surrender? The dev's response to this was, as mechs lose weapons or run out of ammo, mechs will change battle tactics to better reflect their remaining weaponry. This is not tied to how much damage they've taken, and this isn't done in order to avoid fish in a barrel scenarios.
Yep, so they just react to how their weapon loadout is.
Yeah. I don't think they actually answered the question completely.
Yeah, no, they didn't.
Hit and run is too complex to script, I think. It requires the AI to have an awareness of the battle scenario beyond the immediate brawl.
Yep, and the AI doesn't really seem to have that in this game, at least from what they've said. The AI is pretty narrow-minded. It's got like a hazy understanding that it has allied units, and it will react when those allied units are under distress. But once it sees the target, it, like with tunnel vision, will engage that target and switch depending on the situation of DPS output.
Yeah.
And that's about it.
And furthermore, in regards to like its sort of upper level orders, like if it was given a patrol order or a defend order, it'll resort to those. So trying to code in a form of guerrilla tactics is going to be extremely difficult. Well,
you're so easily
I'm not
amused.
saying anything.
Oh god damn it.
Okay.
As he skims further, where even are you anymore? I can't even find you.
I'm on page 4, like mid-section of page 4 of 10.
Oh good, I opened it in WordPad. So there are no pages.
WordPad.
Hold on while I make a fucking document because I'll find it easier. Come on, open your pilot.
Yeah, someone essentially asked a question of if a mech is getting swarmed, can it call for some sort of higher level help order in order to bring attention to itself, like a catapult being swarmed by lights. It depends on how damaged it's getting. So if it's multiple mechs pumping out a lot of damage onto it, the AI is more likely to help it, essentially. It all comes back to the aggro system. How adaptive will squad AI behave with co-op players? Edits, such as with in co-op, if there is just 2 co-op players who are human and the rest are AI, how will they respond to the human player? Essentially the same as they would respond to any other player on the battlefield. They receive commands from the commander, and that's about the extent of it, really.
Yep, I mean, you wouldn't want the other players giving orders.
Yeah.
That would cause issues.
They'll treat you like another AI, essentially.
They're like, you're just as brain dead as me. No, that's fucking mean. No.
More likely than you think. Anyway.
Oh, so sad.
I'm gonna skip that question because it's useless. I'm on page 5 now.
This is one of the problems with these AMAs. Is definitely a lot of these questions are repeats from the previous,
especially towards like in the later AMA.
Yeah, the second AMA, because that's I get why they do it. And it's actually a good reason. It's to get people in different time zones. Fine, but one of the problems is when you use it for the podcast content, is like some of the questions are repeats.
Yeah, because a lot of the people that come to the podcast are like the sort of people like us who just devour both of them in an attempt to extract information.
Then maybe in the future it would be better to trim down the list to relevant questions.
Bubbles, we did that last time. We actually already elaborated.
We did that last time.
We'll probably do it next time because I will be able to make the next AMA. I made sure my Wednesdays are a lot more clear, and that's when they have them.
Yeah, and furthermore, a lot of the reason why this one is so haphazard compared to the previous one is because, well, you were really busy last week and we didn't really have a chance to powwow together about this.
Mm-hmm. Next time, though, we should be able to pretty easily. On top of that, it's not the biggest deal because it's AI. AI is another one of those topics with games where it's like, you get an understanding. This AMA actually does give us a little bit of an understanding of what the AI is going to be, but it's one of those situations where we really have to see it in practice to understand, like, okay, what works with this AI, what isn't. And furthermore,
they can make promises upon promises, but that doesn't really mean anything unless they can.
Every time I think AI, I think of that one CA developer with the weird fucking hair, the gothy looking one, who was talking about Rome 2 and like, oh yeah, it's just AI is so complex and stuff. Gets game on launch, and AI just sits there and it's like, oh, very complex. It's so dynamic.
I mean, for now at least, the PGI have been pretty humble about the capacities of their AI. Like, they're not trying to say it's, like, revolutionary.
They aren't doing what the CA devs did, which were like, it's the new greatest thing ever.
They really aren't. They're just saying,
they're like, it'll work. Hopefully.
It'll work. Don't expect too much from it. We're not trying to make it overly complex. It's it'll work the way you expect it to work, and the way in which other mech warriors have worked.
They might be trying to subvert our expectations on purpose here.
Trigger words.
Trigger words.
Triggered.
I don't think about it. That's a tactic.
I don't think so.
It'll blow you away when it actually is released.
Well, yeah, like, we were lying to you the entire time. We spent the last decade working on the best, most complex AI systems imaginable, and
it doesn't work. Oh no! That sounds like the Rome 2 situation again.
In regards to support weapons like narcs and tags, will the AI use them and how will they react to them? The devs said the way you expect them to. There is a target sharing system among the AIs, and they do take narcs and tags into account when choosing targets. I don't know if it modifies potentially the aggro value of a certain mech.
I'd imagine.
That's a question that wasn't answered or asked, but one of those retrospective things. We'd have to experiment around with it when, well, the rubber meets the road.
Yeah. That's what will be nice about the instant action button, because that'll make it easier to experiment. So that's one thing to bear in mind. Like when we get a hands on it, we should test it with give a catapult, and put in another mech that throws like a narc beacon. See what it does. Does the catapult prioritize LRMs on the narc beacon target, or not?
Probably.
I'd hope it would, because a narc beacon target, the LRMs are going to have a better chance of hitting.
PGI's official statement on this matter was, "It just works. Don't worry."
It just works. Oh, that's so reassuring. Oh, God.
Where have I heard that phrase before?
It works. Yeah. Don't worry about it.
It just works.
It's like that
Meanwhile,
commercial's
here you
flex
are in a
tape.
Raven that's built with nothing but narcs and ECM, or tags and ECM, and your catapults are firing off at like something that you're not even targeting.
Like, I bought this narc beacon and they don't even do what I tell them.
Like something you can't even see. You just go, no.
They're using them on fucking nothing.
I imagine, like, it really calls into question what their development focus is. Are they really trying to make AI complex enough to be a good standalone single player experience, which it sounds like they are trying to do, but at the same time, one has to wonder if their focus is co-op.
Yeah, it seems like they're going down the co-op route, and honestly, I think that's better, because I think Mechwarrior 5, this particular one, its strength will be the multiplayer cooperative aspect. That's what the other ones could never have before. The netcoding wasn't there, and even when it was for 4, I mean, there was no co-op functionality like this.
Yeah.
Now we've reached a point, and the market's changed. Co-op games are pretty hot nowadays. A lot of people enjoy them, and honestly, most of the games I buy have some sort of multiplayer component to them. Though normally I buy the PvE ones because I enjoy those the most, when you can work together with friends to overcome obstacles. And this is one of those games. Well, it's definitely what they're going for.
I'm going to give you a bit of a nightmare, potentially.
Don't do it. Don't do it. You little shit. Spit it out.
Mechwarrior 5 Battle Royale.
No. That's actually kind of upsetting. That would not work in so many ways, more than one. Because it would have to be like a certain set mech.
Can we just kill Smash?
Oh my god, it's fucking tricky.
I mean, if they don't care about the universe, I mean, sure. I don't get how all these mechs would get here without all of them being organized by someone.
See, this could actually work, because there's one planet that's retarded and stupid enough to do something like this. And it's called fucking Solar. Yep, there you go. But even then, this is so autistic. Like,
oh god, it'll be a DLC feature. Oh no, I see the writing on the wall.
You have to pay for a battle royale. I mean, okay, free for all makes sense. Solaris, they do that all the time. But like a battle royale where it's closing in, but no, that's fucking stupid.
Kibs just said no.
Well, the thing is, Mechwarrior is way too complex to be something so mundane.
Yeah, I just see Kibs now being like in the fetal position on his bed, crying himself.
I'm actually gonna be pissed off. Like I will actually be upset if I see them do that, and I'm actually gonna have to do something about it. I'm gonna like on the internet really loud, and I'm gonna make lots of clickbait thumbnails, and I'm gonna do everything in my power to make sure that they don't do it. Because I think it would be a detriment. It would hurt the franchise in the long run. Battle royales are a fad.
Oh boy.
You brought this up, okay? Fuck you. It's just like MOBAs. It's a fad. It's got a niche, but it's not gonna be a staying power. Don't go down the fad trap. Don't do it because it's popular. Ah!
Right. Let's bring it back in line then. Back on topic. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Someone asked a question of will an AI teammate have a preference for mecha build and play styles? No. What you put them into is what they're eventually going to skill up in, so that'll be within your control.
Which is good. You should get more control over them.
Yeah. That'll happen before you drop into a mission, though. Will AI focus damaged components? Will vehicles have multiple components that need to be hit, or one health bar? This is actually somewhat important. Vehicles are designed to have one health bar, partially in order to decrease CPU usage, so that you don't have to suddenly keep track of vehicle components.
I mean, I like tanks.
They're the cannon fodder enemies.
No,
it's all about the mechs.
No, I'm triggered now because tanks have components, though. Ugh.
Oh, but you're a TT scrub. Get out of here.
Kibs,
it's not even tabletop battles. I'm gonna say battle squeak. Rogue
Okay, don't talk over each other.
Fucking hell.
Fairman, what was Fairman? Okay, what were you saying?
If triggered about it, to be me.
Fairman, shut the fuck up. I like tanks just as much as you. I think the Free Worlds League and their Lolly Tank Brigade is fucking fantastic. I like the idea. Okay.
It'll be easy to kill.
I imagine, I'm not going to be too upset because I imagine that it'll just be modded in. Most of my grievances probably can be fixed with a simple mod. I hope.
Probably.
I really fucking hope.
I mean,
complex tanks, please. Somebody mod that.
If you can resize mechs themselves, no doubt
you
can.
Resize tanks.
Well, yeah, you can resize tanks, and beyond that, I'm pretty sure you can therefore be able to resize hitboxes.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, no, they should be tethered
terrifying.
to one. Yeah, that will be.
Commando the size of a skyscraper, tiny ass hitbox in his toe.
Oh my god. I just want them to upsize the tank models to make the biggest fucking thing.
Yeah, go full on Emperor type.
As you're just sitting there smashing like with your mech, and you're like, "What's that around the mountain?" It's like a barrel, but it's like sticking above the mountain. It's a fucking tank. Oh god, retarded. That is retarded. That's not a mountain, Sebastian. That's a tank.
It's moving.
It runs you over. Oh my.
I am watching tectonic plates.
That's
shift.
not a moon.
That's no moon.
Okay, we're going a bit off the rails, and we're almost done with this. Okay. Next question. If you have multiple target locations on a given mission, can you split your forces to divert some to one target while you take on another? What's going to be the skinny on that? And the dev's response is that you don't want to overtax the host's PC with battles happening 3 kilometers away. And the game is designed around lance combat, so your AI will stick close to you. They won't be able to go past a certain range away from you. And beyond that, the game incentivizes you to stay together with the way, with the kind of targets you're going to be facing as opposition.
Yep, teamwork, which is good. And that's how lances should work.
Caveat. And they said this, that problems may arise in co-op play. So let's test the bounds, everyone.
Wait a minute.
What's going to happen, whether they went to or not?
It's like, where's Bubbles? Bubbles is in the back, not moving. He's like, I don't like mechs. I hate all of you.
Just sitting there over the speaker
because you moved too far away.
You're dumb. Why did you make me play this?
Just strap my mech with explosives and I'll charge it and blow myself up. There you go.
Oh my god, he speaks for the 3rd time.
He's spoken more than 3 times. I like the idea of Bubbles being a Blakist. He's psychotic, you know. He's a little unhinged, religious. Maybe not so much, but you know, you get the point.
Religiously unhinged, perhaps.
Look, you believe in Blake, and he will guide you. Yes.
No.
Well, it was worth a shot.
Okay.
I believe in myself. No, I'll guide myself.
I just stand with what I said earlier. Allahug Bubble Bar.
Tiny bit of thing to address about AI being able to peek around cover and withdraw like players in Mechwarrior Online. No, the AI isn't going to be made that complex because
that is
would
pretty
be
complicated.
too frustrating. Like even if they did make it a thing, like I must be behind cover after I fired, that would be so bloody frustrating to play against. Why would anyone want this?
Like
it's kind of the issue of having
an
AI that's too competent. If it's too competent, then it's like people get frustrated because like, what? How am I supposed to beat this? They're not having any weaknesses.
And the thing is, most of these missions, you are a single lance. Sometimes you have allied support units, which is fine and dandy, but most times you're going against the odds numerically.
Yeah,
you're outgunned in most scenarios.
Yeah, so the solution is to make the AI dumb.
If it was competent, there'd be lots of dead players everywhere.
Just basically just look at any FPS ever.
Yes. Honestly,
okay, they don't have to be that dumb.
Okay, not Call of Duty levels, Bubbles. Come on, calm down. God damn it, they just stand in the open.
Call of Duty, I shoot you.
You know, some of them can be fairly complex, but in most cases, they like to stand in the open.
This actually segues neatly into the next question, which is traitor AI. Will there ever be situations where someone turncoats on you mid-mission? Dev response, it will depend on the story mission.
God damn it, it's a narrative thing only. So it is going to happen. Probably. They spoiled their own narrative.
Nah, I wouldn't say necessarily.
Maybe.
Treachery.
It sounds like they're using weasel words with that one.
Weasel words.
I don't know, like the way they said it back then, they sort of hinted at it as like a sort of wink, wink, nudge, nudge scenario.
Like, oh yeah, they're totally gonna pay you once you've done your mission. Like, oh, we're here to support you. Like, why are the support units sitting back, letting us take damage?
I think they actually addressed that in the first AMA. Like, you might get screwed over by people you're taking contracts from potentially.
And that's kind of like, that should happen occasionally, yeah, but not that often because of the MRBC board. Like, that word gets out that, you know, some house or family did that, that's gonna fucking... I mean, again, it's only if word gets out.
What was the name? Mercenary Review Board?
Yeah, essentially. They pretty much give out the contracts and stuff like that, and they also rate companies and people you get contracts from for reliability and stuff like that.
And also, if your reputation's higher, people will be less likely to stiff you.
Yep, and also you get better contracts from more reputable people. Maybe princes and princesses, because they're like, hey, these guys, they're a known company. They're pretty good. Their ratings are high.
They're honorable.
You're in demand because you are a good company.
Okay. Next question. There's not so much an AI question, but one that can be addressed nonetheless. Will multiple playthroughs have different variety of enemies mechs, even within the same difficulty level? Dev response to this is that there is a lot of replayability because you have various starting locations and you're more than unlikely to see everything before the game ends in your first playthrough. So you'll see interesting stuff on repeated playthroughs. To what degree is there going to be handcrafted planets and mission types? Well, it's going to be procedural to some degree or other, but who knows? Your mileage may vary.
Okay. So there might be some level of like path A, path B. Well, it has to be if there's different variations.
Mayhaps. I doubt that the story campaign will change too drastically, except from like, aside from maybe some sort of text bubbles and blurbs. Like, depending on what your origin is, like, and how many goats you owned on some backworld planet.
Hey, how many those aren't goats. 6. Oh! Those are just mountain men.
The universe.
Yes. Although I think, it is going to be heavily implied that you're from some sort of noble house. Nah, it doesn't much matter.
You have lineage.
You can start in Karita space, you can start in Steiner space, and then the story will progress, presumably.
It will affect, I think, your starting mechs, if I remember right.
Yeah. The question is, how will like the missions spawn on the map? Like, will story missions be tied to specific planets?
I would imagine they'd be tied to
That'll be something for
specific
another
solar
AMA.
systems. I would imagine.
Yeah.
Because if it would be procedurally generated story missions, it'd be weird because that'd be written scripts and stuff. So it'd be you need to go to fucking World's or Star's End. It's like, but you're in Dracona space. It's over in Steiner space. Like, what the actual fuck?
Yeah. Oh well.
Don't worry about it.
Whap whap.
What can we expect from AI post-release? Depends on the priorities listed within the backlog and what their technical debt is. So that's a term I really hate in the modern game or any sort of software development climate. Technical debt. Like, how much can you afford to ship on launch, and how many bugs and unpolished surfaces can you leave in?
Yeah.
It does sound like they have a fairly narrow development window.
Which begs the question:
like,
how much after content support will this game receive?
That is entirely dependent on initial sales success, I think.
Because is there intentions for a sequel? I'd wager it's like most studios. The sequel will be in works even before the game is actually launched, if it's already intended to have a sequel. And from the sounds of it, they did allude that they want a more story-driven Mechwarrior title as well. Mercenaries has always been the more sandboxy approach. Then there's the story titles like Vengeance, Mechwarrior 2, where you play a narrative campaign within the universe and you can partake in the bigger battles and stuff.
Like, campaign packs might be a thing, certainly.
Like mission packs, yeah, definitely. They could add some narrative elements.
Ones, not what HBS did with Flashpoint. Like, that's...
See, Flashpoint, I was like, oh, they were gonna start alluding to the rise and build up to the next Succession War. Like, cool. And it's like, no, not really.
No. Yeah. It's just like, here's a bunch of derpy missions and really, really poor mission objectives.
It was a letdown. Yeah.
I hate the hell out of the targeting beacon placement objective. Like, those missions are cancer.
Oh, it's like the escort missions when they spawn the escorts in the middle of the enemies.
It's worse than the escort missions. But anyway, like, we're getting off topic.
It's a podcast. Don't sweat, bro. But I want to go to bed at some point.
Right. Will the enemy AI react to your weapon's loadouts, i.e. try to outrange you, or if they are long-range weapons, will they choose the distance? No. The AI will not explicitly react to what your loadout is. They will try to maintain their optimal range and tactic based on what their own loadout is. So, like, this is strange as an answer. And when when put alongside the idea that the AI will aggro onto you depending on how much damage you're outputting, it does seem as though the AI is going to be pretty dumb in this respect, and a potential avenue of exploitation will be just to, well, learn boat to some degree.
Yeah. More than the thing is with most AIs in most games, and even some of the best games, exploitation is really easy. It's just, you can choose whether or not to do it. Simple as it gets, really.
If you go out of your way to cheese a game, you can't really complain about it.
Mm-hmm.
People will, though.
Well, it's how you want to play. You know what? If people want to cheese the game, then so be it. That's fine. Nothing wrong with it. If they're having fun, that's a good thing. As long as you're having fun while playing the game, I'd argue that that's a good thing. If you're not having fun, then there's a problem.
Now, moving on from that, an interesting question was asked about how does the AI's accuracy work in detail? And the dev's response was that it'll naturally work on a chance to hit a dice roll based on pilot skill. and at which point the AI rolls a die. If it hits, then they aim at a component, which is going to be modified by the AI pilot's lethality rating. So if a pilot has a higher lethality rating, he's going to aim at more damaged components more often in order to try to eliminate them from combat. But the lower it is, the less likely he is to target damaged components. So yeah, just like that order of operations. The roll the die to hit first, and then aim at a component.
I like how that's all going behind the scenes too. Oh.
Like, that just strikes me as a bit weird.
It is, but I get what they're doing. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to make it so that they're trying to make an illusion, right? That certain AIs are stronger or more adept than others. And how they do this is by making the AI perform a series of tests. And these tests help to mitigate that or create this illusion like, this guy's super tough. He's not really. He just, has a higher chance of rolling good rolls on what he targets.
Yeah. But the problem is, he doesn't target first. He rolls the dice first. Like, it's strange.
It makes no difference if it targets first or after.
Yep, because it's going to shoot at that specific thing when the calculation is complete. And the calculation probably it'll be like that. It'll be so quick, it'll be the blink of an eye. I don't think
maybe I'm overthinking it, but...
Well, the calculation's quick. Like, I'm trying to help with this. It's like that, It's over. It'll make the...
Like, that part doesn't, I don't know, maybe I am just overthinking it, but...
It's not going to be that long, Smash. It'll be...
Length of the calculation isn't what worries me, but just the order in which the calculation is done.
Well, what's the end result?
Which is completely irrelevant.
The end result is the same either way.
It's just like multiplying. It doesn't matter which order you multiply in.
Yeah, the end result will remain the same. Because the calculation will be done in the same amount of time. Unless there's some sort of factor as to how that would differentiate itself. Which I don't think there is. It wouldn't matter. It'll just pick a component and then fire at it. And that'll be the end of it.
The way the dev said it, it's not trying to pick a component to then try to make a dice check to fire at. It makes a dice check to see if it hits with one of its weapons, and then chooses the component to which that hit goes to.
So it's determining whether or not it'll actually shoot you correctly.
Yeah.
So that means, the one thing that does raise in my mind is concern is, okay, is evading actually doing anything? Do they just instantly hit whatever they fucking want?
They probably have a penalty to hit you if you're moving.
Yeah, I imagine it'll be...
So,
I'm imagining, yeah.
They did mention that lateral motion factors into the calibration of tracking, especially once they make a miss, for example.
So if you wiggle more, you'll be harder to hit.
Potentially.
I mean,
like if you're moving faster, you're going to be... The AI is going to have more trouble leading its shots, essentially.
Which is good. That simulates, evasion.
Yeah. I think when it comes to AI versus AI combat, however, the evasion stat is going to be, like...
How's that going to work? They're just going to hit each other spot on.
Like, does the evasion stat modify an AI's 2-hit chance? Or will it modify, like, a targeting chance?
I imagine the calculation will be done in the same order. They might add in, like, a quirk or something under the hood.
If they're lazy, they'll just make the evasion a chance that's calculated after the hit chance is calculated. So if it hits, you have a chance to evade after that. If they're feeling lazy about it. Otherwise, you just throw in a modifier.
Yeah.
I'm imagining a modifier.
At some point, someone will figure out what the actual formula for the order of operations is, but until then, we can only speculate. Ooh.
Well, that's okay. I mean, think about it. It's going to be pretty open to modding, so we'll probably be able to find the actual equation itself, even.
Perhaps.
Because that'll be a tweakable element, I'd hope.
I don't know. That might be one of those locked, hard-coded things into, like, the game engine, perhaps. Who knows?
Well, we'll see.
Anyway, moving on. Will the enemy AI turn on their own team? Nope, we've already addressed that. Someone asked the question of whether AI pilots are going to fight differently depending on biome. And the devs' answer to this was twofold. They are going to take into account any sort of heat multipliers that a particular map applies, but they're not entirely certain how the AI will treat biomes yet, or how they want them to treat the biomes yet.
Yeah.
Like, I think it'll just be any sort of multiplier or buff, debuff that is being applied by the environment is the only thing the AI cares about.
Yeah, because like snow,
terrain mesh.
snowstorm, or a tsunami or whatever, rainstorm inhibits vision. Like, it's not going to factor in too much, but sandstorm, like vision, like what does it do, right? Sand planet, like hotter, or desert biome hotter. So it'll factor in the mechanics and less of the actual biome itself.
Yeah.
What mechanics are changed? What factors are changed? That's what the AI is going to focus on. It won't care about the aesthetic because the AI doesn't see the world that way.
Yeah. Sort of begs the question, does the AI see cover? But we already sort of answered that when we mentioned that the AI is not going to try to peek in and out of it.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty. It's going to be pretty simple. And honestly, I think the peaking system is very complicated when you actually think about it. You have to factor in a bunch of things. Like, okay, the AI has to understand when its components aren't exposed. So there needs to be a system in which it can recognize what ligaments are exposed to direct fire. That's actually fairly complicated because basically there needs to be a beam projected from, a weapon. And if it hits, or if it can hit, because there's no vertical planes or planes protecting it, it needs to find a way to cover itself. And now it needs to factor in, the angles, the trajectory, and that gets really complicated really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So I get why they don't want to do that. And even then, players even struggle with that, because sometimes in the MMO, little arms will stick out, or little chunks of themselves will stick out, and they won't know until they get hit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anyway, we're almost at the end. Whew, I'm starting to get a bit tired and hungry, but anyway, we'll fight on.
Well, what should I say?
Will friendly and enemy AI taunt each other? The enemy AI will occasionally beak off at you. That's about the extent of that.
You're
and
dumb.
It has to just do with the voice acting.
You're dumb. Oh god, I hope we can mod in our own. Well, no, we should be able to mod in our own voices. That'd be great.
I'm looking forward to the Bubbles mod.
The Bubbles mod?
No.
I hate
the Bubbles mod.
It's just like one mech strolling across the battlefield, has no weapons, and all it does is complain about being in the Mechwarrior game.
Like, I just
no. It does have weapons of a sort. Just loudspeakers.
Loudspeaker. External
it is
output.
The noise marine of Mechwarrior.
Oh my god, Bubbles, no! Oh, you can mod it so it can destroy glass windows, huh? It'll have a visual effect in cities, at least. Look at the bright side.
Oh boy.
Ooh, cockpits will take damage. It could crack.
Yeah,
they did say cockpit damage effects will now be a thing, and that's actually really cool.
Yes.
Welcome to Interstellar Crystal Knock.
Oh no.
Oh shit.
Not that. Will lance mates refuse to follow stupid orders?
I think we had that topic basically.
Yeah, we did. It's just that the answer that the devs then gave for it was somewhat conflicting with what they said before, but suffice it to say, the AI will follow your orders to the letter.
So they do listen.
Like, it's supposed to do that, but at the same time, it's supposed to take into account the kind of aggro it's currently under.
So if you spam the order, the AI will just derp out and do what you tell it anyways.
Or it'll just derp out and stop doing everything altogether.
Yeah, it really just depends on what it does that. Yeah, it'll just depend on what ends up getting prioritized at the end.
To recalculate every time you do that. That's so mean. So...
Yeah. Are
we at the end? Where are we? I don't even know.
We're on the second to last question, but I already addressed it. And then the last question. Yeah. I mean, it's not so much an AI question as it is just a meta mechanic question, but fine, we'll answer it. It's the last question. Can you choose the number of AI pilots that you want to take with you? 1 to 3 or none at all. No humans present outside of the host. Lone wolf it. You can throw in as many folk as you please into combat with you, more or less depending on how cocky or safe you feel.
That's actually a fairly important question because that would affect deployment cost.
If there is going to be a deployment cost.
True. I did catch a screen cap of it a while ago when I covered some gameplay footage that was leaked. And the pre-mission information did have, I think, a payment for drop expenses. Though I don't know if that's a factor. Is it just a flat number for dropping onto a planet? Or is it actually, like, weight based on tonnage? Because technically, all the mechs are inside the fucking dropship anyway, so would it really fucking matter?
Depends on how they balance it, I guess.
It might be a bit of content that they decide to cut because it's just superfluous or
I mean, it's a nice feature. Because it's like, okay, do you just want to go in and shoot stuff by yourself? Like, okay, yeah, you can. It's going to be harder, but you can. There's the difficulty button for you right there. Go in lone wolf all the missions.
Oh yeah, that's the thing you can totally do. And a panther. Or whatever else you please, but, you know.
I mean, you could make for some interesting challenges. But about it.
God, how would speedrunning this game work? That's an interesting thought.
It's procedural. I don't think the speedrunning community will be that big. They don't like procedurally generated things most times.
Yeah, but there is going to be a story campaign that you might be able to optimize to some degree or other.
Oh, even then, speedrunners, what they typically prefer to do is they would prefer to work on a single seed, assuming that's how it's going to work.
Oh, yeah. No, if it's moddable, yeah, they could probably mod the seeds. So it'll be the same seed every time.
Mm-hmm.
Or just IL strats. Especially if, like, if story missions are tied to specific planets.
I don't imagine speedrunners will be that big, though, for this game. And speedrunning is kind of niche.
To try everything.
But that's just me.
Keep in mind, speedrunners, in order to make a name for themselves, eventually just start pulling out niche games in order to just pad their resume with, like, oh, I have the world record in this totally obscure game that is, like, owned maybe by 5 people. Oh, I'm so good.
Nice. Level up. You're a speedrunner champion. Yeah.
Wow!
Where's my paycheck? You don't get one.
Sent to a Nigerian prince.
I speedrun the Clue, the computer game. Wow, congratulations.
Clue, the computer game. That's terrible.
There is a speedrun record for it. It's exactly 1 second long.
Wait, what? How did the fuck that happen?
Because Clue is a completely random game. You can win it just by immediately guessing who the perpetrator is, if they happen to be that random.
Oh my god! So yeah, basically work it down to the millisecond how fast you can click.
Essentially.
That's terrible. It's actually terrible. That's actually
it is
terrible. It's like I saw somebody had speedrun records for Fire Warrior, and that made me mad because like somebody actually played this game and enjoyed it enough to play it that much.
No, speedrunning is not about enjoyment.
It's about min-maxing.
Not really.
Or optimizing it. That's right,
People
min-maxing.
do not play these games for enjoyment. You cannot tell me that.
Some of them claim it, but I don't know if I believe them.
They're like, I just try to get famous so I get those mums. Oh. But I think that can wrap up the podcast here. That was actually pretty good.
I told people that it was going to be shorter, but it appears I lied to them.
Honestly, I think longer is better because I like the ability for us to elaborate and expand on it and also pose questions and try to look at it and also mix a little of our own little autism.
Question.
Shut up, Fairman. Now, wouldn't be
I like that we can ask
wouldn't be a stream if we hadn't told Fairman to shut up. Oh, my fucking soul hurts. But yeah, no, I think we can wrap it up there. By the way, one thing I do want to say, you can find Sebastian's channel. Link will be in the description, and yeah, where you can go.
Likewise, on my version of the video,
so
Kibs' channel will be in the description.
It goes both ways. It's a two-way street.
Yep.
It's gonna be weird. So we have to like synchronize the ending too. So like,
not necessarily. I mean,
so if I say goodbye now and end it here, then what?
Yeah, I mean, I just press the end podcast button at some point, you know, probably mid-sentence like I'm about to do right now. Nah, I'm joking.
Whose version will have the extra last bit then?
Well,
he's like, oh shit.
Let me put it this way. I cut out the middle bit where I was away at a potty break. So it depends. If you cut yours off a bit early, that's fine.
We talked about stuff. Oh my god, we have extra exclusives.
I was also going to say Kibs is waiting, so he probably wasn't going to do it
anyway. End your
anyway.
video now, and I can continue waffling on and just like
Here, you'll get your exclusives now.